What a win for the Raptors. We are on live stream number 2 of the day. I have taken some notes from the previous live stream and I have a second monitor here. It is my cell phone. You know, complicated. Complicated. I retired the Tank World Order intro for one day. Just one day. Just let them have it, man. Let them have it. Do you know how much work and preparation goes into an NBA season? It's a lot. How much heart and soul you have to have. These guys all care about winning. They have different ideas of how to do it. Maybe some have very bad ideas about how to do it. But I'm sure that a win, coming home as winners, yeah, it's a win. Yeah, maybe at the end of the year, as you're praying for lottery balls, it's going to cost you. The Raptors are on a 2-game win streak. That's got to feel really good. If you're a competitive basketball player, that's got to feel really good. I got 7 messages before the third quarter saying Scotty Barnes is having such a bad game. He's having such a bad game. Yeah, I saw him taking a lot of threes. I wasn't seeing him being overly assertive on offense. He hadn't gotten to the line. I'm not going to deny that, but man, he was guarding his tail off. He was trying really hard. Let's forget about that incredible contest on Jaren Jackson Jr. for a second. Fourth quarter, Scotty shows up again. Showed up again. Just 16 points, 3 points in the first quarter, a three-pointer made, right? Attempting a lot more threes in February so far. We've seen it 2 straight games. Defense has been lit. Loving that mobility. This is exactly the defender we saw at Florida State. This is the plus side defender. And he had complicated matchups tonight. 13 points in the fourth quarter. No points in the second quarter, no points in the third quarter. Raptors struggled, played from behind. Huge fourth quarter from Scottie Barnes. Assured, confident, all smiles at the end of the game. Mark Anderson saying it's depressing being a Raptors fan. The same Mark Anderson who said that last game that Alperen Sengun is better than Scottie Barnes. Find me a fourth quarter that Alperen Sengun has put together like that, my friend. How are you supposed to be bad with a team that's this talented? It's actually a miracle that they're 5 games under 500. You know, prior to the season, if I told you that they had the same record as the Indiana Pacers, 25-30, before knowing what Tyrese Halliburton was going to become this year, you would have thought, well, what happened? Did they lose Siakam for the season? Did the Pacers trade away every single draft pick for Kevin Durant? How does that happen? They're in the same territory record-wise as a lot of teams that were projected to finish tops in the Wemby sweepstakes. Prior to the season, there were a lot of people thinking that Indiana would finish 14th in the East. A lot of people thinking there's no way anyone's going to beat the Utah Jazz to the bottom. Very few teams that were projected to the very bottom have stayed at the bottom. The Raptors should not be in the conversation for bottom 5 teams with this roster. Does this change anything? Well, now we got to talk about the opponent, okay? First of all, this is no shade to Jaren Jackson Jr., Leo Routens, Sam Mitchell. Be better. That was crazy. I decided to listen to the Raptors broadcast today, and I don't know why I did it, because every time I do, I regret it. And Leo Routens, you're one of the smarter ones, right? Sam Mitchell, I mean, I just expect this from you at this point. But to say that a guy is not worthy of an all-star spot because you cherry pick box score stats is so insanely idiotic. I'm going to play a little clip for you. It's from The Mismatch. I'm going to hope that you can hear it. It's a little clip from The Mismatch where they were also talking, in fairness, they were talking about why Jaren Jackson Jr. may not have deserved an all-star nod and why Anthony Davis deserved it over him, and you know how the coaches maybe got it wrong. And Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't play a hell of a lot of minutes, even though he's played more games than Anthony Davis. The argument was that Anthony Davis has played more minutes, and therefore he definitely deserved it. And I'm not saying that Anthony Davis didn't deserve to be an all-star. He probably did. But here's how that interaction between Chris Vernon and Kevin O'Connor went. I'm going to play you a 26-second clip. It is funny. And it goes into the advanced stats a little bit.
I would love to hear that because they're 13-15 with Anthony Davis.
The Lakers are, in Anthony Davis's minutes, a +3 net rating. That's their net rating with Anthony Davis.
Okay.
And with Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Yep.
A +11.5.
Do you know how good you have to be, how impactful you have to be +11.5 in terms of net rating? There's a reason why analytics nerds are going nuts over Jaren Jackson Jr. He just shuts down an entire part of the paint. And it just so happens that, he's having a historic season on a lot of levels, right? In terms of what he's doing, you may not see it in the raw blocks, and you might say, oh, big deal, Rob. Hassan Whiteside's blocked this many shots in a game. He wasn't an all-star. It's not about the blocks. It's about how he's getting those blocks. I'm a really big Jaren Jackson fan. I'm a really big Memphis Grizzlies fan. Really huge Memphis Grizzlies fan. I love the way they draft. I love the way they think. I love the way they coach. It's a great team. But they were, let's be honest, without 3 freaking starters. All 3 starters who've given you worlds of trouble. Dillon Brooks, Ja Morant, and Steven Adams. They have no matchup for Steven Adams. Pascal Siakam has no answer so far this year. I mean, granted, it's 1 game, but just going back a little bit with Dillon Brooks. And the Raptors have absolutely no answer for Ja Morant. Still, gets very choppy, very competitive. This is a team that is not on the upswing right now. They've been pretty mediocre. And to be completely fair, so much of what you see as the opponent depends on when you meet that opponent. When in the year are you meeting the Memphis Grizzlies? Are you meeting them in the midst of a 10-game win streak, or are you meeting them, during a rough patch when they're going through some rough things, right? Every team goes through ups and downs during the season. It's weird and, quite frankly, disingenuous to just look at everything statically and just say, okay, well, boom. That's a good team. That's a bad team because of their record. Don't play the record. Play the team. I think the Raptors got an incredible contribution from Chris Boucher tonight. Chris Boucher and Thaddeus Young were incredible. And I think that the stats will show that. But I think that watching the game, you felt it even more. Let's look at that. Let's look at a little bit of what went on tonight for the Raptors, right? First, let's look at the Memphis Grizzlies side. You get 18 points from Jaren Jackson Jr., 4 blocks, which is right around consistent with where he's been throughout the season for his home court. His home court road splits have drawn a lot of eyebrows, but trust me, it's legit. Desmond Bane, the gift that never stops giving for the Raptors. They passed up on Malachi Flynn for him, and quite frankly, I don't think that I'm ever going to look at Malachi Flynn without thinking about what could have been. It's just because they're both guards, they're both undersized, and they were picked 1 pick apart from each other. It's not like you missed on him by 10 picks. You missed on him by 1 pick, and it's because of they're both shooters, like they're both playmakers. It's ridiculous. And to people who think that Desmond Bane is just some guy who's just operating on Ja Morant's gravity, or he's just benefiting from having a good team, I hope you saw tonight that he's so much more than that. He's a really good player. He is very comfortably in the conversation as a top 30 player. I think he'll be an all-star next year. I just think he's an incredible player. And it's just staggering to watch him operate. Xavier Tillman, a player that I've been really high on for a while, wanted the Raptors to trade. I think the Memphis Grizzlies would just be a great trade partner for the Raptors. There's so many guys on this team that I like. Specifically, Conchar. Just so good. He took 1 shot tonight. His presence on defense was really good. I know he's the -11 plus minus, but I thought he was good. David Roddy, bull in a china shop. Raptors really liked him in the pre-draft process. To everyone who says that we would have drafted Walker Kessler, I wouldn't have been surprised if we had drafted David Roddy. His workout with the Raptors was off the charts, and there were a lot of rumblings that they really liked him, and I can see why. He's really good, and he's really interesting as a player. I also like a player on their team, Kenny Lofton Jr. I know he's been playing with the Memphis Hustle. He's on a 2-way contract, but man, if that guy ever gets loose, or if I could just run the Raptors for one day, I would find a way to sign Kenny Lofton Jr. I don't know why. Something about him just tells me that he's going to be a really serviceable role player in the NBA someday. Tyus Jones, just really good, like incredible. Probably one of the best backup guards in the NBA, and you can just see why the Grizzlies are such a good team. Moving on to the Raptors side of it, Pascal Siakam, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 0 blocks, 5 personal fouls. He picks up that 5th foul, and you go, oh boy, not again. Is he going to foul out again? I'll be honest with you. If Santi Aldama, if his name was something else, he fouls out in that 4th quarter, no questions asked, the second he walks into the game. That was a foul. Okay? We'll talk about the end of that game because it was absolutely bullshit. Gary Trent Jr., 10 points, 5 for 14. Not a solid Gary Trent night. Fred VanVleet. I heard some chirping about Fred VanVleet in the comment section already. I'm going to tell you right now, I think he played pretty well. 6 for 19, sure. 2 for 9, sure. It's not impressing anybody. But some of the playmaking and some of the willingness to move the ball has been really consistently good for a while now. And I cannot look past it. I just can't. He's been good. Precious Achiuwa, shaky performance. Scottie Barnes, we've already talked about it. Thought he was really good, really solid down the stretch. I just, it's just his ability to just turn it on whenever the hell he wants. I do think that he had a bit of a shaky 2nd and 3rd quarter. I wish he'd been more aggressive. He did not get to the line. That's almost inexcusable, despite the size that the Grizzlies have up front. He does need to get to the line. And if I'm being honest, those turnovers, at least a couple of them were absolutely ridiculous. There was one where he travels first, then he turns it over, throws it away. And, kudos to him for making a solid contest on the ball, trying to get the shot block. But that was a turnover that he cannot make on the road. And then there was the one where he's looking at Fred VanVleet, and I think Tyus Jones just puts his hands up and just steals it. And I think that those were pretty inexcusable turnovers. From a team stats perspective, no surprise here. The Raptors, take way more shots than their opponent. Once again, this is consistent. I have never seen a team more consistently do this and do this better than the Raptors in a really long time. It doesn't matter the opponent. Every single night, the Raptors are going to do 2 things scheme related. They're going to take anywhere from 2 to 25 more shots than their opponent, and they're going to shoot worse than their opponent. It's almost on a nightly basis. The Raptors weather a storm, really. 10 plus threes given up, right? 10 plus threes. But it doesn't really matter, right? Because the Raptors get on the offensive glass. They get 11 offensive rebounds. Big kudos to Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher, Scottie Barnes, and just everybody who crashed the offensive glass. It's not always the guy who grabs it. It's sometimes just the guy who's going for it. I think the activity level was incredible. The Raptors hold their turnovers, right? Isolation ball, a lot of, holding on to the ball means maybe a few less turnovers. The Grizzlies, of course, lose the turnover battle by 9. And yet, look at the points off of turnovers. Look at the fast break points. I mean, how do you excuse this? Just the execution in transition for the Raptors has been so poor. The Raptors, put Jaren Jackson to shame in a way. 62 points in the paint. Once again, the Raptors, veering away from... wait a second. I was looking at free throws, guys. I apologize. My eyes just jumbled for a second. The Grizzlies shot 10 more free throws. The Raptors do win the 3-point department by 1, and they take fewer They took 9 more threes than the Grizzlies. I apologize. So they win the 3-point margin by 1 3, but they shoot worse, which is consistent. But taking more threes is very rare, especially because the Grizzlies were missing 3 players that frankly don't shoot well from 3. Granted, they take a lot of threes. They don't shoot well from 3. Dylan Brooks is sub 32%. Ja Morant, I believe, is sub 32%, and Steven Adams is not a three-point shooter. So this is kind of a strange game, I think. Grizzlies, of course. Yeah, so moving on from that, I apologize, guys. My eyes are a little bit tired from staring at screens all day. Finally, we're going to look at what this means for the Raptors going forward, and we're just going to take a quick look at the schedule coming up, and then we'll get to some calls here. Okay, so here's the Raptors schedule. First, let's look at the standings. The Raptors, after today, winning 2 straight, the team ahead of them, the team directly ahead of them, the 2 teams that are directly ahead of them that are just falling down the standings, the New York Knicks 3-7 and Indiana Pacers 2-8. Both teams probably looking to be active at the trade deadline. We will get to the Kyrie Irving news, which broke 2 seconds after our live stream about trades today. And we'll see how that shakes up the Brooklyn Nets and what they're going through right now, because they're playing 500 ball as the teams ahead of them are just playing way better. Philadelphia is just clearly creating separation here. It feels like there's a big gap between the top 3 teams and everybody else, if you look at the losses. And I think that the Nets, depending on how they sort of calibrate to what's going on with Kyrie Irving leaving, I think there's a chance that with the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie, they're just really deep. I think they got back a really good deal for him. I really do. I think Kyrie's good, and he's been playing incredibly. But I do think that these pieces fit very well around a Kevin Durant offense. I think they got really good pieces, and they replaced a little bit of what... It's very Moneyball, right? They replaced a lot of what Kyrie does in terms of being a tough shot maker with, frankly, quite a competent package, and also that 2029 pick that could morph into something incredible. We don't know, with the way the NBA goes, what that 2029 pick, it's unprotected. So if nothing else, it becomes a very savory trade asset. But the Raptors are now tied with the Indiana Pacers. And, they're 2.5 games ahead of the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic, over the last 10, don't look now, 6-4, right? The Charlotte Hornets don't look now, 4-6. These teams are not aggressively tanking as badly as you would think they should be. And I think the Raptors might be missing an opportunity here to have made a trade already and probably just cue the tank, give Scottie Barnes a month off, and just let the tank roll. But they're not going to do it. They didn't quite do it that disgustingly in Tampa either until like the last month and a half. So maybe you're just going to have to deal with the fact that the Raptors are going to win about 36 games this year. Maybe that's just it. But if you think about it, 36 games is probably not going to catch the Washington Wizards, who are surging, by the way. The Wizards, prior to this, I don't know why it says they've lost 2, because they'd won 6 straight at one point, right? They're 6-4 over the last 10. I think there's a really good case to be made that it would be very difficult to catch Miami at this point. 4 games above 500, you're 5 games over. That's a pretty big gap. So best case scenario for the Raptors, play in, 9th, 10th, 8th. Worst case scenario, say best case. Worst case scenario, Raptors play in. Best case scenario, probably you let a surging Orlando pass you. In terms of the schedule upcoming, it's not looking pretty, guys. I got to tell you, for those on the Tank World Order, going on Tankathon all the time, drawing, the first pick, second pick, Scoot, Wemby. You got San Antonio, tanking team. Utah, potentially tanking. Detroit, tanking. Orlando, tankathon. New Orleans, slumping. Will Zion be back? Hopefully. Detroit, again, slumping. Cleveland, you've beat them 3 straight times already, I believe. Then you got Chicago, Washington. That's a lot of games. That's almost a month straight of teams that you could realistically beat. So, does it change anything? I stand firm that nothing has changed from the Raptors side. That I don't necessarily think that this core has earned any sort of faith from Masai, and I'm going to stick with that. until I'm proven otherwise. So in terms of the calls, let's get to them. I apologize, my ramble went a little bit long. First caller, let's get to K Money, and then Ian, and then Coach Mo. K Money, what up?
Yo, what's good, Rob? How you doing, man?
I'm confused. How are you doing?
Chilling.
Chilling with the
Shit.
tank.
I'm actually not mad that we didn't lose today, because Scotty was just impressive, man. You got to give it to him, bro. He didn't want to lose, so it's
Absolutely. He
why
was
would I
all
want to
smiles
lose?
at the end. He was so hype. I was happy for him, to be honest. I was. And to
Down
everyone who messaged
15
me in the
going
third
into
quarter saying he's playing like shit, trust me, in the fourth quarter I was like, you were saying, it's funny.
Yeah, we were down fucking 15, bro, going into the fourth or some shit. And this guy just comes in with the second unit and looks like a star, but he looks like the best player
He was the
on
best
the
player on the
court.
court. He was the best player on the court, and he was so sure of himself, and he's just playmaking, and there was that one
I'm sorry,
turnover, but pardon?
that's what I want, man. As much as people like to say he's not developed yet enough to take over, or Siakam is that guy or whatnot, I want him with the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter every time.
He should have it, and he's done it. Like I think somebody said in the comments earlier, they were like, okay, you're hating, on Twitter. They're like, oh, you're hating on Siakam, blah, 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 by saying that Scotty's like the best fourth quarter closer. But he's like, but this is the first time I've seen it this year that, yes, he does really thrive with the ball in his hands. And I was like, did you
What an
sleep
idiot.
through, did you sleep through Brooklyn? Did you sleep through Milwaukee? Like, he's done this like a lot. It seems like every third or fourth game he does this. And this isn't common. Like, when you look at the stats, he's like firmly up there in the league,
Him
as
and
a
De'Aaron
fourth.
Fox are tied for the most efficient, right? Like,
Yeah,
clutch
he's
scores.
getting up there. And volume too, like volume of attempts, volume of makes. Like, he is really showing you something. LeBron said, what, 2 points is not 2 points. Man, Scotty Barnes is a walking embodiment of that. It's not. Like, it's timely, it's presence. I don't care, if you get a run in the second quarter or whatever, you put up like 5-6 points in transition. Like, that's not the same thing as going up against a set defense that is desperately seeking a stop, and you just put it up over two guys. Jaren Jackson, wow. Santi Aldama and Jaren Jackson Jr., and he just puts up a fadeaway.
Jaren
awesome.
Jackson looked like the world's greatest defender in the first 3 quarters, and then Scotty just bitched that man. Like, he violated him, man.
He did. What'd you think of Siakam's game tonight?
It's the regular Siakam game nowadays,
That's pretty
nothing
much where
too
I'm
crazy, like nothing spectacular, but gotta give credit to him. He hit the 2 clutch free throws. I was expecting him to miss one at least, but
I was expecting him to miss one too. Good for him to hit those shots. I think he hit another shot as well in the fourth. I think, he played about as well. I was very firm that the Raptors should have kept him off the floor. And literally the second he came back, Memphis caught up and they were going up. For most of the game, he was minus 21, plus minus, which is, pretty hard to do when your team isn't losing by that much. The bench plus Fred plus Scotty were pretty much firmly positive or close to positive the entire game. And I think that in the 2 stints that Scotty played with Gary or Scotty played with Fred and the bench, like, it really worked. Thaddeus Young, Chris Boucher were just solid tonight. Thaddeus hit his first 3 in the new year. That's kind of depressing. It's like, I don't know, I don't know how you play in the NBA and you hit your first 3 like over a month into the year, but hey man,
we
he
could
doesn't
have
take
had
them.
Walker Kessler. We could have had somebody, bro, with that pick.
Probably would have taken David Roddy. What'd you think of Memphis?
Knows Ja Morant. No, who else were they missing? Their big man.
Steven Adams. No Ja Morant. No Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks, I believe, serving the suspension for the Donovan Mitchell altercation.
Oh yeah, that's that cheap shot shit. He probably would have done it to Siakam tonight if he played.
Man,
that's crazy.
Honestly, Dylan Brooks, Siakam, just like the Spider-Man meme, yo. Like, one guy trips, the other guy punching guys in the balls, both screaming into the sky, and one hyping themselves up. It is what it is, man. I don't know, man.
But
Like,
did you see
it's
the?
just go ahead.
Yeah, did you see the post? I think it was by the Ringer or something. They said the Raptors are looking to trade both OG and Siakam. You think there's like any truth to that? Or
I think they're looking to trade one, but not both. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they would use OG to initiate talks about Siakam because OG is similar to a lot of guys on the roster. And I think that a team that needs OG could sell themselves on needing Siakam. He is a switchy defender. He's a plus defender. He could be, he's a reasonable scorer. He's obviously a starter.
great shooter. Yeah.
He's not a great shooter, but like, let's pretend. Let's just Google. But yeah, so I mean, like, if a team out there is looking for OG, I can see how like they could try to rope them into potentially talking about Siakam, by making an outrageous demand for OG, right? Like you could look at it as like anytime you get serious interest from around the league, like you need to get their interest with something, which means you need to dangle something, right? So I think for like consider the Nets situation this offseason, right? They're taking calls for Kevin Durant, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, they were also talking to teams about Kyrie Irving. Now you get the interest of you do intel during these trade talks, and I think it's very important to do intel for trade talks because you get an idea of how GMs around the league value your pieces. Number one, it helps you during free agency because if right now you have a team like the New York Knicks, just an example, let's say you have the Knicks dangling 3 first-round picks for OG, or let's say you have Orlando dangling like a first for Fred VanVleet. Well, guess what? Now you know who those guys are getting targeted by in free agency. Number one. Now you know what they're looking for. And you also maybe, you ask them for Bol, but they offer you Mo Bamba. Well, now you know, if you didn't know already, that they value Bol over Mo Bamba. It's a really good thing for front offices to dangle very in-demand pieces that they have no real intention of trading. So, of course, like there have been a lot of reports that the Raptors have a very high asking price for OG Anunoby. I think that's by design. I think they have no intention of actually trading him. Sure, if somebody comes in with 5 first-round picks, they'd be stupid not to trade him. But I think by holding the price artificially high, they also now have leverage because there's a very good case that they could make now without sounding like they're completely full of shit that, hey, like we're about to turn around our season, guys. Like I think the pressure's on the other teams right now. I think the Raptors could realistically, like if they really wanted to try to fake it, they could say that they're under no pressure to have to make a deal. And I think that's the best place to be in if you're negotiating. Because let's put it this way. Let's say you get the loss tonight. You're one loss closer to the Wemby sweepstakes. Fine, I see that. But you're also one win closer to potentially turning around your season, right? Because tonight you could have either ended this night 24-31 or 25-30. 24-31 sounds a lot more depressing than 25-30 when you consider the prospect of trying to convince other teams that you don't have to make a move. Right now, if you are firmly out, like let's say pretend like the Raptors were like 20-35 right now or some crazy shit like that. Like there's no chance your season can even remotely turn around. You'd have to literally win every single game just to be like, you'd have to win 95% of your games to make the playoffs. No one's buying that you believe that. But 5 games under 500 with Indiana falling apart, Chicago potentially, weak. You
Chicago's
could
been winning.
Pardon?
Chicago recently they've been winning without not checking, but
I'm just saying, I think that you
possible.
could convince people that you don't have to make a move. I just think that the power of negotiation means that you have to be negotiating from a position of strength, not weakness. And to me, it's really difficult to negotiate from a position of strength when agents have already leaked what you are and are not willing to pay their clients, like Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr. I think it becomes a little bit harder to convince other teams to give up multiple firsts or whatever. I think a lot of teams are just playing chicken here. They're kind of like daring the Raptors to not take a trade with Gary or Fred or whatever. Maybe they're lowballing them, and maybe the Raptors don't like what they see, so they're like, all right, you guys want to lowball us? We're not getting rid of Gary Trent Jr. for a couple of second round picks, and we're not going to get rid of Fred VanVleet for a late first there's really no upside for us. We'd rather just, we can probably get that in a sign and trade or something like that. So I don't know. I think there's
that
I
Gary
see.
Trent for
Pardon?
seconds. They said Gary Trent for seconds.
There are some people who have said that teams have offered multiple seconds or a future first protected for Gary Trent Jr. There have been other rumors that the Raptors would accept a 2023 first round pick, but a decent one, but they haven't been offered a decent one yet. So I think that kind of gives you an idea of the market for a slightly low efficiency volume shooter who doesn't shoot overly well. I mean, he shoots decently, but he's barely above average. So I think that other teams are kind of letting you know that they don't rate him like they rate OG, right? Or Scotty. They don't see him like that. And that's fair. So you got to look at like the market value around the league and just gauge it that way. Any final thoughts, man?
Nah, bro. I just really want to see trades happen. Like you might think I'm a bad fan or something for wanting to see this team lose, but in reality,
I don't think so.
like,
I think you just want to see good basketball, and I think
want to
like
see more talent around Scotty. That's really it, bro. If that
I
means
want to
we
see
can
more
get-
talent too.
If we can get Scoot or Wembanyama, I'd rather do that than potentially make the play in and lose and get a trash pick. Well, not a trash pick, but
Well, I mean, look,
Lesser odds.
I've been scouting the 2023 draft. I'm a lot less worried than I used to be. Prior to, about 3-4 weeks ago, I had done research on like 4 prospects in this draft, just guys that I'd heard of last year, that I scouted ahead of last year, like Wembanyama, Scoot, etc. I got to be honest, I didn't know how good and how deep this draft was. Now I'm just like, you know what? Let's say, for instance, that the Raptors are haggling on the inclusion of a 2023 pick on one of the trades that they're looking at, right? Let's say like there's an OG trade where they're like, we want this 2023 pick instead of this 2023 pick, and the one that they want is good and the one that they're not getting is bad. Now that you have negotiation, maybe you get the pick that's good and that ends up being a lottery pick. I'm not saying it's going to turn into Wembanyama, right? But honestly, man, like it's not possible to get a top 5 pick right now.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
just saying,
but-
like without lottery pick, like without aggressive lottery luck, it's just not possible to out-tank the teams that are beneath you. They're so bad. Like, how are you supposed to be worse? How are you supposed to be worse than the Rockets? How are you supposed to be worse than the Pistons? They shut down Cade for the whole fucking year. How are you supposed to be worse than this team? Like, I don't even know how to be worse than some of these teams. Like, I don't know. You could play G Leaguers. You could play Ron Harper Jr. at starting small forward and play him 40 minutes. I guarantee you're probably going to win more games than some of these teams because Nick Nurse is just too good at playing. Like, our team still plays defense. Our identity is winning. Even if, ISO ball is fucking it all up. Like, I'm telling you, man, like we guard too hard. Like these other teams that are fucking losing, they don't defend. That's why they lose. They give up 150 points. When have the Raptors given up 150 points? It's hard to be as bad as you need to be. And honestly, I don't think we've seen anything from these teams yet. You start seeing like the Houston Rockets, man, like they're going to start shutting down guys. They might shut down Alperen Sengun. They don't have any reason to play that guy. They could just hold him out. When they hold him out, bro, they start pulling Eric Gordon out after the trade deadline. They deal Eric Gordon. Now you got no adults in the room. Holy shit. So best case scenario, look, the Raptors ended up with the 7th worst record when they Tampa tanked. Right now they're sitting tied for 6th. They're kind of in the same place, right? So if they aggressively start to tank now, they could still end up with 3rd or 4th. Maybe they get some lottery luck and they get 1st. I don't know. If there are conspiratorial people out there, I'll tell you right now, Toronto is a great market for Wembanyama. A considerably better market than Detroit. No offense to that Detroit guy who calls your goat. All right.
What do you think about the potential of, like, you said Orlando wanted Fred. Would they potentially give up this year's first?
No. Nah, they're not stupid. Nah, they wouldn't do that. Not a chance. You would offer a pick swap. Like maybe that would be part. I don't even think they would do that. There's just no chance. There's just too much at stake. If you're in the bottom 6 right now, you got eyes firmly on Wembanyama, and the idea that you would lose on Wembanyama, $500 million asset valuation for Fred fucking VanVleet. No, I'll tell you right now, you are never, like, wait after this trade deadline, just wait. You've never seen tanking the way you're about to see tanking. I promise. Anyway, K Money, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Have a good night. Next up, we got Ian, and then we got Coach Mo. Ian, what's up?
Hey, Rob, how are you, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Shout out to K Money for calling the trade in the chat. He called it Irving to the Mavs. Yeah.
Yo, honestly, I was really happy afterwards because I was asked during the chat, where do I see Kyrie going? And I was like, oh my God, please tell me I said Dallas. Thank God I did.
I think it's. I don't think
I
it's
said
that
Lakers,
intelligent,
Dallas, Heat.
Yeah. Before Mo comes on and harps on Siakam, which I 100% agree with. I think we're getting to you may not agree with me, but we're getting to the point where you might have to try to rehab his value because,
Why? You're in contract negotiations with this guy in the offseason. You know that?
Yeah, I know that.
So him tanking his value right now doesn't exactly hurt you.
Well, he's not going to get a super max. I mean, did you? By the way, did you see in the game when he dribbled the ball off of his foot on that fast break? How that's completely symbolic of the last, what is it? Maybe 60 days, perhaps, maybe a little bit less, of how he's been playing.
Honestly, man, it's not even the offense. I care about the offense. It's the defense. It's the connectivity on offense. It's how much he stops the ball. It's his shot diet. It's the shot quality. Him dribbling the ball off his foot is pretty much the least of my worries at this point.
He's so cooked, Rob. Like, he's done. Like, he's got no legs. I don't see him. Like, if after the All-Star, or excuse me, if after the trade deadline he's still on the team, I think he probably will be. I think you're going to see stretches of games where he's not playing. I can't imagine they're going to just keep throwing him out there, unless, of course,
his stats matter to him, man. I mean, yeah, you can make it look. He's still getting his stats. He's not impacting winning, but he's getting his stats. He's getting his 22, 23 points. He's still getting up his 17, 18 shots every single night. He's still getting some rebounds, some assists. At the end of the day, his agency, his trainer, Rico, whoever is in his ear, is telling him there's a big bag of money at the other end of that CBA, and you got to get it. Now, whether the Raptors are going to give it to you or somebody else is going to give it to you, and I don't think anyone's going to be crazy enough to give it to him, but maybe there's some small market team out there that sees him as worth a max. Okay, he's a two-time All-NBA guy. He's a former All-Star. Probably should have made it this year. Probably, I don't know. You can definitely argue that he could have made it this year. He's an all-star player this year, in my opinion, even though he didn't make it, and I'm perfectly for it. So, I mean, look, there's you're gonna have to pay this guy at some point, but he's gonna make sure that you're gonna pay him, and he's gonna continue to, do what he's doing right now. I don't see a player who is potentially going to be negotiating contract being down for the tank. I saw Kyle do it because Kyle did a lot of things that put team first.
You don't think that management has some degree of, there's got to be some diplomacy there. I can't envision him just forcing his way into situations where, Nurse took him out in the fourth. He was in foul trouble. He almost fouled out of the game. I don't know. I don't know what he thinks is going on. When you're outside looking in. I mean,
what do you think of this? What do you think of this K Money prophecy? I'm calling it right now, fam. Siakam is going to Portland. Mark this down.
I hope he's right, and I'm a Pascal fan, but he's been basically nailed to the ground in terms of his stamina. He's got heavy legs. He's making terrible. I'm not just going to blame it on lack of fitness. It's also the IQ problem. But I just don't see. I think he's tanking his value. I don't know a trade. While you were talking, it came when I'm on the trade machine looking at trades, and I went through the trades that you suggested, and I virtually liked all of them, especially the Siakam ones. And and
this is coming from a Siakam fan.
Yeah. I think it's a Hail Mary at this point to see if I'm riddled, by the way, with anxiety about the prospect of OG being traded for. And I completely agree. I think you had 2 podcasts earlier that I caught where you were basically saying verbatim, I don't want OG to be traded. He's a 25-year. He is basically the crown jewel of the Masai era in terms of when you that trifecta of like excellent scouting, player development, and what would you call it? I guess like forecasting.
Okay,
you know?
here's a devil's advocate thing. From the day he was drafted to current moment, mark it down. Whatever value you want to assign to the player he was when he was drafted. Now consider Siakam. Whatever value you assign to the day he was drafted, right? Whatever that value is, has the value of Siakam gone up more or the value of OG gone up more since the day they were drafted? In terms of the player that they are today, because they were drafted around the same time. I think they were drafted 1 draft apart. Siakam's 2016, OG's 2017. So
it's a rhetorical question.
It's not.
You don't think so? Well, because Siakam's got the $35 million. That's why it's rhetorical.
Fair enough. But he also had the more expanded role. He also had the cleaner bill of health. He also had the more opportunity. Maybe OG with the same opportunity as Siakam shines in the playoffs, and suddenly we're like, oh, the next Kawhi. You know, look, so much of this is luck. So much of this is time and place. You're telling me OG Anunoby couldn't have had a huge finals? He is literally a way more clutch player in the playoffs than Siakam. He's proven it time and time again that he's shown up when Siakam is wilted in those moments. You're telling me OG Anunoby starting, you know, I mean, granted, he wouldn't have started, but you're telling me he couldn't come off the bench and putting up 30 points in a single game at some point? He probably could have. So I just think that, you know, it's time and place. It's when the contracts were negotiated. It's the agency, whatever. But I do think Siakam is the crown jewel in a lot of ways of Masai's era. To take a 27th overall player.
Are you saying that as your opinion or objectively, or both?
It's my opinion. But I think objectively as well, I think the analytics would back it up. I mean, OG has never come close to the type of production that Siakam is doing. Now, granted, I could argue he doesn't warrant that role or that production or whatever, but creation load, these things like creation load, efficiency, these things have an inverse relationship. The more you handle the ball, the more likely you are to turn it over. The more you shoot the ball, the more likely you are to miss it. The more likely you are to draw a second defender. There's a reason why there aren't a lot of guys who have 27 to 29% usage, because most guys would absolutely fuck up in those situations. It does take a very special talent, and kudos to Siakam. He is, for all intents and purposes, you know, a top 25 player in the NBA, a mark that I've never been able to give to OG. Now, OG is obviously the much younger player, the more portable player. I think there's a weird fit here where I just think that Siakam if he agreed to be a second option, if OG agreed to be a third option, if these guys could just slot into those roles. And by option, I don't mean shot taker. They can still take the most shots. I just want the ball in Scotty's hands. I want him to be the decision maker. I want him to be the key initiator. I want him to be like, Siakam, post, your touch. I want him to be the decider. That's a George Bush term. I am the decider, right? That's a Bush term. This is my America showing. Gosh. My God. My point is, I don't care if Scotty takes 5 shots or 10 shots in a game. I just want him to have the offense run through him. And if Siakam was willing to be a second option and ping pong off of him the way that he ping ponged off Kawhi, knowing that he would still get all his shots that he's getting right now, but he just wouldn't be initiating the offense as much, I'd be cool with Siakam staying forever. It just doesn't seem that he's willing to do that. That's the problem. And it's just so obvious now. It's becoming obvious to media types. Like, I talk to people in New York who see it. They're just like, so when are you guys going to turn the keys over to Scotty? I was just like, man, this was me last year crying in a room alone, or like crying to myself, not crying in a room, but crying out loud in a room alone. And I felt like I was the only person in the world who thought that Scotty Barnes should be leading this offense. And now it's like, it's extended out to national and international media. Everyone's seeing it. That this team just runs better when he's making decisions in the offense. People eat more. The ball moves better. The offense is better.
If the casuals couldn't figure it out tonight on the back of that fourth quarter performance, then they never will. You know, I mean, it's been obvious for a while, and
it has been.
And what's really making me anxious is that this trade deadline will pass,
Mhm.
and let's say we'll take your potential outcome to heart. So you were saying like maybe they're haggling, maybe the time came and went. Who knows? I don't even care if they do make a trade. My point is like once Thursday's passed and we're back to square one, essentially, it's still going to be Siakam's team. And that it does fill me with a bit of dread. And again, I want to repeat myself. Like, I don't want them to make a trade just for the sake of making a trade. I'm not one of these people like on Real GM who call in like, this team sucks. I'm bored. Make a trade. Let's make it interesting. Like, I think that's the most ridiculous thing. Anyone who's like really cares about the team should never want that. It should be, excellent value. And I trust them to, make that call, obviously. And by the way, I was going to sign off and ask you about Desmond Bane. Like you can't get them all, Rob. Eh?
That's fair, but when your draft philosophy has a massive blind spot, I have to call it out, right?
Yeah, I know.
Like
Christ.
There are certain GMs out there that have a preference towards American players, and they will pass on an international player because they have a bad experience with international players, or they
that's
have
a perfect analogy. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, you consider like some people just have an affinity for drafting tall white shooters. They just have a thing about it. I don't know why. Some people have an affinity for drafting guys from big programs. They just love signing guys from marquee college programs, and they will overlook a guy who played in a lesser conference. I call these blind spots, and I believe that aggressively we should weed out our blind spots. Just in life and in basketball. I think basketball is a great metaphor for life in so many ways. I think chess is a great metaphor for life. I think chess is a good metaphor for basketball. I've gone very meta here, but thanks for calling in, Ian. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
As always. Cheers,
All
man.
the best.
Thanks. Alrighty. Next up, Coach Mo. Coach Mo, an hour and a half earlier was not enough. What's up?
I thought the tank was safe. I thought our fearless leaders were going to take us home.
They
But
almost
Scotty had
did.
other plans. Scotty had other plans.
He was not having it. He is
Scotty
not.
had
He is
other
not
plans.
for the tank. Scotty
He
is
is.
not for the tank.
If you in the fourth quarter late,
Mhm.
Siakam took a shot over Aldama. Like he just took like a heat check shot, even though he wasn't hot. It seemed like he bricked that. Fred took one of his bet on yourself threes, and I was like, oh, here we go. All right. Another loss, and then Scotty did what Scotty did, but it started in the fourth quarter. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, our fearless leaders were on the bench, and Flynn, Barnes, Thad, ball movement. It was just exciting basketball, dunks, layups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. That play that was reviewed, Fred VanVleet, Desmond Bane, was it a foul?
From what I saw, I just looked at the first replay, and then I was making waffles, so I didn't see one. But from listening to the broadcast, they said there was a foul prior to the shooting motion, and they
But
thought
that's
they
not
were
what they called. They called it Raptors ball, which I think was absolutely horseshit. First of all, Fred VanVleet has his hands on Desmond Bane's hip.
Okay.
Granted, he does
get real
block
technical.
him, but you're not allowed to make contact with the guy's hip with your hand. That's a foul.
Yes.
I don't know how the fuck you replay that and cost us lottery balls. Like, I would have been perfectly... My God, these refs do not want us to get Victor Wembanyama. This is a conspiracy against Canada, and I want it called out.
Dude,
Okay,
you know how
I'm being so facetious, and I'm so kidding right now, but I'm not kidding.
No.
These refs got it wrong. I don't know how the fuck you watch that replay and say, oh yeah, this guy went up in a forward motion. Yeah, okay. Precious Achiuwa's in the restricted area. Fine. He goes up vertically. You can argue he was leaning over a little bit. He makes contact. There is contact. Yes, the block was clean, but you can't block a guy if your hand is on his hip. That's a foul. Like, fuck, man. I've read the rules.
I've seen them change. I've seen them say a challenge was successful, but they give the foul to somebody else. So your challenge is successful, but the foul is to someone else. I've seen them do that.
He fouled him on the gather, not the shot.
Yeah, that's what
I
they're saying.
disagree completely. He has his hands on his hip as he blocks him, guys. What are you guys talking about? The gather is like it's a forward shooting motion. How many times have you seen a guy hit on the second step of a layup and he gets continuation? My question is, if he fouled him on the gather, it should be Grizzlies ball, not Raptors ball. It was Raptors ball. That's the issue. I don't care if he fouled him on the shot or whatever. It was a clean block. I'll agree with that. The block is clean. But if I'm holding, look, we have seen this so many times with referees where they go to review one play and then they say, okay, that's correct, but there is this other foul.
Yes.
So if you're going to make the call, I think get the right one. Number one, worst case scenario, it's a foul on the gather and it's Grizzlies ball. Best case scenario, it is a foul on the shot because he has his hand on his hip on the forward motion. I'm sorry. I don't know what you guys are watching, but I very much disagree with you.
Yeah, it would have been beautiful if Barnes did everything he could, played a great fourth quarter.
I mean, do you feel bad for the guy too? I mean, it takes a lot out of him, right? And he was so happy for the win.
There are people who are saying the part-time player thing. Why can't he do that from the first quarter? I was like, who in their right mind has enough energy to do that for 4 quarters? Who?
Yeah.
That intense. And it's like these great players. Do you think great players play with the same intensity, focus, and energy in the fourth quarter as they do in the first? You think they play with the same energy, intensity, and focus as they do at the beginning of the fourth, as they do in crunch time? No,
they don't. And I mean,
Reggie
honestly,
Evans plays the same type. Remember Pops Metsubatsu? Remember him?
Pops Mensah, yes, I do remember him
Yes,
very well.
that guy plays hard every second of every game. It doesn't matter what time of game it is. What's the score? Those are guys that do that. Not Scottie Barnes.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, look, here's the thing though. You can't be invisible for 2 quarters. Let's call an ace an ace, right?
Yes.
You cannot score 0 points I think Brian would agree with this, right? Every time I talk about his fourth quarter scoring, Brian's like, he needs to do this in one other quarter as well.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. So here's what I would like to see from Scotty going forward. Bring it in the first. No, playmake in the first, bring it in the second, playmake in the third, bring it in the fourth. I think that should be his game plan literally every single game, unless the defense aggressively plays him another way, in which case take what they give you.
Yeah, but
I like the fact that he's taking more threes. Do you?
Finney Smith for the first 3 quarters. That's his role, to be Dorian Finney-Smith.
Look, he's top 20 in the NBA for January in touches per game.
Well, yeah,
no one is going to stop him. He's making a choice here to be a connector and to be a playmaker, and I respect it. I understand the necessity for it.
Cheeky, but...
Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, get yours, man. Just get yours. Yeah. I know that he wants to play make and he can naturally go towards that. But right now.
But is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that it started in the beginning of the fourth when Fred and Pascal weren't on the court? It started then.
I mean, honestly, he could have done it with them on the court. He's done it many times. The fourth quarter where he went off against Brooklyn, they were on the court. The fourth quarter where he did it against Milwaukee, they were on the court.
You know what's weird? They're on the court in the fourth, and they were giving him the ball. It's almost like they're like, yeah, that's our closer. It's like, yeah, just give the kid the ball. Todd
Lee, this comment, I think, is the sentiment of the fan base. Barnes needs to be a little more consistent, scoring every quarter 7, 7, 7, 7. I don't know if you're joking. I'm going to assume you are joking, but please let me know in the comment.
That's Shaq.
Please tell me you're kidding. This is Shaq logic. Did you say Shaq logic?
Yes, that's Shaq.
That's hilarious. I was going to say the same thing. Shaq always says that. He's like, 5 points a quarter. You get 20 points. How hard is that? Look, in all honesty, every great player knows you don't score evenly in all quarters. Anyway, Mo, any final thoughts?
Yeah. Nurse seems to have abandoned the extended minutes without Fred and Pascal for Scotty. He does things and then he just leaves, abandons them. And I like your idea of using OG as the opening of discussions, and then whatever they were willing to trade for Pascal, you say, okay, I'll give you Siakam and drop a pick, 2 picks or something like that. I don't know, but just lower the asking price and just do the okie doke.
I like them going into the trade deadline with more leverage personally. Anyway, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Next up, we have Tonius 35, and then we have Raps fan 6996. I believe Raps fan 6996. Were you the person who couldn't figure out your mic last time? Please make sure that you have that figured out, and we can talk about why I'm hating on Pascal Siakam. Anyways, Tonius, what's up?
Yeah, well, for that guy who had the mic issue, it's called mictest.com. That's how I fixed my mic issues. That's why it's always working every time. Try that out. It always works. Okay,
Perfect.
So let's be honest here. I'm going to keep this short because I have to be honest with you guys. I didn't watch the game. I was out eating with family. But let me guess.
Womp.
No, but let me guess. Did Pascal, you do his usual BS, which is I, and then didn't get the call and using his and then he goes what, and then he's telling the ref. Yeah, so I think that's probably what's happening. And then what's Fred's usual thing? Well, he didn't shoot that well. I think I'm gonna guess he played better, but I think during a fast break, you're expecting
Yo, this is a goat call.
Yeah, you're expecting like a fast break, like if Jalen Suggs was dribbling and knowing who to pass to, but you got Fred and he's so slow, and it's like, oh well, thanks Fred for dribbling, you kill our transition. And I'm gonna guess Gary tried to chuck his way, did some floaters.
Yo, you're lying. You definitely saw the box score. Come on.
I saw the box score, but I didn't watch the game. So you have to know the dynamic, right? And then I'm guessing Gary tried to do a fast break by himself with contests, but we all knew he was gonna blow the layup or like miss the dunk because he has the athleticism of a 35-year-old where he has to use all those little tricks in the bag. So I'm guessing that. So yeah. So
okay, first of all, I take exception to that. Number one, he's more athletic than me. Number two, I'm 35 years old. So ageism, cut it out. Cut this shit out. I'm just kidding. I appreciate you, man. Like that's funny. Thanks for bringing the fire to the call. I like when I like when this is what I like about Tamberlin. When she comes on, she's like fired up. She's like, "Let's go, baby." I like passion in people. It seems like you're very passionate about how badly the Raptors are playing. I feel you.
I was a listener of Raptors Republic. That's how I knew Tamberlin. I can't believe she's still hanging around. It's nice to see her again, and I hope things go great for her, and she can get something like a writing or whatever. And then
she's doing some writing stuff. Yeah, she's doing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Anyways, I'm hoping at the trade deadline, Pascal, Fred. Hey, I'm including Gary in this. I mean, I hope we get whatever for them. And you know what? They all deserve a round of applause because, number one, you got 2 2019 championships and players. And then you got Gary. And then the most recent applause is because they kept their trade value up. So it's all good. It's all good.
Okay. So I have a proposal. Mm-hmm. Seems like the Raptors brass are really big on keeping 2 guys who helped win them the championship around. It seems like that's a really big part of keeping all those 2019 boomers, in play, making sure that they still have faces that they can identify with. But if it's faces you want, I offer you 2 faces that you could easily bring into the tank. Number 1, Danny Green. Let's bring him back. I believe he's on an expiring contract. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I would love him back. I think he's awesome. Number 2, Serge Ibaka, toiling away in Milwaukee. You know who Serge is better than? Probably half your roster right now.
Oh, yeah.
So let's bring those 2 back. And while we're at it, that trade that I flashed for Kyle Lowry, let's do that. Let's bring, let me see if I can still bring it up here.
That's how you kill a tank. You're killing a tank. You're bringing Lowry. He's just going to make everyone better. So, hey, let's
No. You bring him back as an assistant coach. You let him play, but as an assistant coach, you limit him to 5 minutes a game, 5 to 10 minutes a game. He's a ceremonial starter. There you go. That trade. And you get Nikola Jovic, a guy that Scotty Barnes will 100% vibe with. Do you know how I know Scotty Barnes will vibe with him? Because he vibes with every Balkan person he knows. He vibed with Goran Dragic. He vibed with, he didn't. Svi's not Balkan, but he's Eastern European. And he vibed with Balsa at Florida State. So basically, Scotty Barnes loves the Eastern European people, and the Eastern European people are for Scotty Barnes. So let's bring in Nikola Jovic, man. Nikola Jokic. Come on, man. Let's bring them all. I'm for it, man. But honestly, if the Raptors just want memories, how chilling would it be to hear, West Philly's finest? Just bring him back.
Yeah.
Just bring him back. Bring him. It will get so many people interested in this team again. I promise you. I promise you, it will make people so excited to watch again. Just to watch Kyle do his little antics, draw his little charges, and just sit him 10 minutes later. He will make the young players better, but just make sure that he, doesn't have anyone to set up around him. And I think he'd be really good for development. Personally, I would like to see it. Bring him home. Bring that man home.
Yeah, I'm still calling it that people are going to be shutting down their players in the final month of April. Are this let's say the trades that we want happen, we get all these new players trying to prove themselves. It's going to gel the team, and we are going to win too many games, and we're going to end up in the play-in, but with more favorable young players. And then it's like, oh, too bad, guys, we aren't getting Victor. But hey, here's some playoffs at your surprise, I guess. So,
Someone saying Patrick McCaw ready for 15 minutes a game. Please, no more. I swear to God, if we bring back Patrick McCaw, who's not even in the league right now, I assure you that Scotty Barnes will have to battle with playmaking duties with Patrick McCaw. It will become the Patrick McCaw show again. Yeah. I do not want to see that. But speaking of other guys who were around during the championship run who could help the tank, Jeremy Lin. Lin could definitely help the tank. Yeah. He's not in the NBA right now. Call him up. See what you're doing. Look, this could be like the what is that team full of that movie about the old guys who all come together?
With Kyrie Irving and
is it the the Expendables? Is it the Expendables? No. What is that team with Stallone and they bring back all the old guys?
It is the Expendables. Expendables 1 and 2.
Is it the Expendables?
Yeah.
Yes. Make it the Expendables. Yeah. They're not happy with Kyle Lowry in Miami. Bring him back. They're not happy with Serge Ibaka in Milwaukee. Bring him back. They don't want to play. Danny Green was complaining about. And you know what's crazy? If you bring them all back, you might just start to win. Bring back Marc Gasol while we're at it. Just bring him to the end of the bench. Work him every single fucking day with Christian Coloco. I promise you, next year this team will be so much better.
Oh my God! If you're bringing back Marc Gasol, I mean, the Herman Juancho's gonna get a boost, man. I think Juancho's gonna score double because, dude, he's got the master.
Jason Chow saying I'm Chinese and I wouldn't even want Jeremy Lin. That's because he's not Chinese.
From Taiwan. He's from Taiwan.
Man. You can't just claim people. Don't do that. He's from Taiwan, man. That's funny.
Taiwanese family. He's from California. Yeah.
That's true. And you know what's crazy? Fun fact for anyone who does not know this. Does anyone know Niga Higa, the Asian YouTuber?
Oh, and then also add in Simu Liu, man. Simu Liu got into a relationship.
No, I'm not playing Asian bingo right now. I'm not naming Asian people. I'm bringing up Niga Higa for a reason.
The YouTube, the YouTube.
Yes. Do you know that he's first cousins with Jeremy Lin?
I did not know he was first cousins. Oh my God. It's like the Armani Brooks thing, right? You know who Armani Brooks' cousin is?
Armani Brooks?
Armani Brooks has a cousin who is like a multi-million subscription YouTube guy who's famous with the and he loves to do RDC World. Yeah, thank you, K-Money. RDC World.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Anyway, Tony, thanks for calling in. Thanks for the highly entertaining chat. I think we all
got tickets to February 28th Chicago Toronto tickets. I mean, if I come into that Scotiabank, this better be a different Toronto team, or else I will give away these tickets. Okay, maybe not, but I am almost to the verge. I might give away these tickets if they don't make some trades.
Go there, cheer for DeMar DeRozan. He died for our sins. Okay,
he sure did.
All right, take care.
Right, have a good night.
See ya. Bye. All right, get prepared for me to get yelled at for talking about Siakam. Raps fan 6996. What up, man?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I hopefully have my mic fixed.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. First things first. I think you deserve some praise for the 6 hours of live streaming that you've been doing today.
Thank you so much. Is this a compliment sandwich?
No. I think you're also ready
start out with a positive.
A barrage you're probably not going to get. So,
that often happens. Like people like. I mean, you've been very critical in the comments. Can we be fair about that?
Yeah,
you have, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
so let's talk it out. Let's have a healthy debate. Let's not make this a Marco situation. I promise to be fair. You let me know what you think, because I like hearing what other people have to say. Believe it or not, I actually. Sorry, I'm hearing myself.
No, I haven't got YouTube on.
So why am I hearing myself? Anyways, Yeah, so I'd like to hear why you feel like I'm being a little unfair to Siakam, and hopefully we can come to some sort of middle ground understanding, and hopefully I walk away a little less sour about Siakam, and you walk away a little more sour about Siakam. That's sort of how these things work.
Classic win-win or lose-lose sort of situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, as Michael Scott would say, yes, absolutely. Okay.
So, the philosophy that I have on basketball has always been like a team sport, as I started last time saying. Sorry again for my mic.
No problem.
And I see a professional basketball team, the product that you put on the floor being actually three things: your front office, your coaching, and the players. Is that sort of the way that you look at it?
I'm kind of struggling to understand the question.
Like, is basketball a team sport, or is it five individuals that are on the floor together?
Basketball is a team sport. The NBA is sports entertainment. There is a difference because once you introduce money into it, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the sport changes into sports entertainment. And there is a business side, there are agents, there are fans. There's a lot that changes a sport. Like when I think about basketball in its purest sense, if I could just ask you, or while you're not talking, if you can mute your mic, because I'm hearing a lot of feedback on like I hear myself. So chances are do you have headphones on?
No, I'm using my phone.
Yeah, you probably need to have headphones on. So ideally what you would want to do is just press mute when you're not talking. Can you do that?
I can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Perfect. So so the minute that you take professional athletes, you take the professional asterisks, you add money into the equation, you add fans into the equation, agents, all sorts of team dynamics. When I think about pure basketball, I think about guys in a gym during the summer trying to get better. I think about those dream team practices, right? I just really, really don't think that it's possible. Like people have often talked about, taking the entertainment, taking the fan side out of it. Like how can we pretend for a second we don't have to sell this to the fans? It's like you can't take fans out of this situation, because without fans you don't have a product, you don't have a business. So that's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, but I'm really just concentrating on the product that you're putting on the floor. I understand there's money and marketing, human resources, sales, all those things that revolve around it to make it entertainment, something that people watch. However, the play, what we're talking about 90% of the time is how the team is performing. And to get the team onto the floor, you have your front office, which really sets your roster with, of course, input from coaching as well as players. But they have a specific role. Coaching has a specific role. And then their players have a specific role to get that product to the floor.
Sure.
Right.
But it feels like to me you're describing Division I basketball. It doesn't feel like you're describing professional basketball, because there's so much at stake. There's so many egos. There's agents.
But I think what I'm trying to get at is we don't concern ourselves with all those other things, right? We haven't talked about the marketing behind basketball. I understand that there's a whole bunch of things that makes this industry run, but at the same time, what I'm trying to drill down to is why are teams not performing? So as far as impacting the performance of the team on the floor, you have your front office, which sets the roster, your coach, which is then charged to deal with that roster, come up with effective game plans and schemes, and your players that are expected to execute that.
Okay.
In a wide generalization, right?
Okay, so if you can get to the point. I'm not trying to be rude, but if you can get to the
point. We talk about individuals, whether it be Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet or Scottie Barnes, and we say that they're responsible for a team not functioning well. But if we look at the ideas behind which area is responsible for the functioning of a team, it's not the players. It's the people that set the roster, and it's the coaches. And the coaches are charged with putting in place plans that work, not just a good scheme, but a good scheme that works for the players that you have in front of you. Nick Nurse has not done that this season, at least.
Okay.
And as far as who's in charge of that team, again,
okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, like, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but it feels like you're taking 10 minutes to say that basically I am shifting blame onto players, where I should be shifting blame onto coaches and the GM. Is that am I getting what you're saying correctly?
Yeah, I think in this particular case, our team is not constructed to win. We've never
I disagree.
We've never backfilled to facilitate Pascal being successful. I don't think Pascal's a number one. Contrary.
So then why is he playing isolation ball like he is a number one?
Because that's something that's set by the coaching staff.
That's not set by the coaching staff. The
offensive schemes are set by the coaching staff.
The offensive schemes
Yes.
are not the offensive pecking order is decided by the team, not by the coaching staff. The schemes are set, the plays are set by the coaching staff. But players are given, the Raptors players have been given extreme liberty. This is not me hypothesizing. This is on record. Fred has talked about it. Pascal has talked about it. Christian Coloco has talked about it. Scotty has talked about it. Gary's talked about it. That the liberty that they receive on offense is basically a trade. They say, if you're playing on defense, you can do whatever the fuck you want on offense. That's how this team runs, and it looks like it runs that way.
Again, Rob, even that is something that's set by management. If I have a philosophy that you can do whatever you want on offense,
that's fair. That's fair. Okay, fine. So I trust. Okay, here's a question for you. I trust you. Like, let's say I invite you to my home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you present yourself as someone who means me no harm, right? Yeah. And you say you want to come over and you want to have a reasonable discussion, and you come over and you shoot me, or you break everything in my house. Am I wrong for letting you in, or are you wrong for breaking my trust? You have an agreement with your players. It's a trust. It's a play relationship. I'm sorry. No. Hold on. Let me finish.
Right.
Let me finish. Please let me finish.
Sure.
The way you're talking about basketball, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you for the third time, it reminds me a lot of how people talk about the NCAA. There is a big difference between NBA and NCAA. And you may think that Brad Stevens tells or that Ime Udoka used to tell Jason Tatum, you can take this shot, you can't take this shot. That's not how it works. No, it's just not how NBA offenses work. You have to have a certain amount of trust in your star player that they're going to make the right decisions with the basketball. You cannot dictate all of it.
What happens, Rob, when that star player does not perform? I'm a manager. I have my own business, construction business, but I'm a manager at heart.
Sure, me too.
What happens when an employee of mine would not perform to standard?
Here's the problem. This is the problem. This is exactly the problem. Right here, what you just said is the problem. And every person, not to broad brush this, but every person who thinks exactly the way you do approaches this from the exact same angle. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had an employee who makes $35 million a year?
No, but Rob, that's not normal, right? Again,
that's the point. You cannot talk to you cannot look. Here's the problem. Okay, there's a certain amount of humility that we have to have when we talk about professional athletes. These are one of ones. Okay, this is like talking about coaching Magnus Carlsen in chess. You just can't approach it like you would a 7-year-old toddler that you're trying to coach up. It's just not the same. These are delicate egos. If Pascal Siakam demands a trade, there goes your biggest asset, or in theory, your biggest asset. You do have to finesse this. There are certain players who allow themselves to be coached. There are certain players who throw a fit every single time you call them out. I would love to tell you, can you please press the mic mute button? I'm getting feedback again. I apologize. So the issue here is you might think that Pascal Siakam gets ripped every single time he makes a defensive error. That those low light films that I made of Pascal Siakam missing rotation after rotation after rotation after rotation, all those fucking Instagram reels that I made, you might think that that's commonplace, that Nick Nurse is just routinely laying this guy bare and calling him out. But that's not what these film sessions are like. Take it from me. I do know people who are in those film sessions. That's not what they're like. They're discussing everything with kid gloves. Why? Because some guys take it hard. Some guys don't. Scotty Barnes, he's going to demand that you tell him when he's fucking up. That's why he's getting so much better as the year goes on, because he asks to be coached. If he's not being coached, he's going to go to Brian and be like, what am I doing wrong? He wants to hear it. Some guys don't. Some guys don't want to hear that they're fucking up on defense, and you have to save it. And as a coach, you can't come in with the same energy. Why do you think so many coaches, so many great coaches who've coached in the NCAA don't crack it in the pros? Because they approach basketball with the same intention that they used to approach non-pro basketball. Pro basketball players have way more control than you and I probably, or at least you, do seem to realize, because your employee that you're talking about, you're making an analogy to your employee and you're trying to treat this whole thing like it's one of your construction businesses. And I may, veer back and say, well, I've run a film festival. I've run a construction business too. I've run a dog walking business. When one of my employees, let's compare it. When one of my employees failed to show up to a dog walk once, because it did happen once, did I chew them out? No, I didn't. I did not chew them out. I told them that it's unacceptable and that it cannot happen again. And I demanded that they apologize, and they never did it again. And thank God it didn't happen again. But I got to be honest, man, that's not how you would handle that situation if that person was making $35 million and they're guaranteed for the next 4 years, and that they hold, so many cards. Like, you can't look, Joe Tsai has made this mistake. Joe Tsai has made the same mistake that you are making right now. He's treating basketball like one of his businesses. He's asking Kyrie Irving to be accountable, to write an apology, to sign a contract with all these provisions. And guess what? Kyrie Irving just demanded a trade. Trust me, you cannot. There are certain guys who demand to be coached. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, guys like that. They demanded to be coached like they were still amateur athletes. And those guys got better and their teams won for it. Okay? Some guys don't like to be coached that way. And I'm telling you right now that if you have soft, you try doing it. Like, Pascal Siakam has been talked to very candidly by Nick Nurse a couple of times every single season for the last 4 years. There have been a couple of blow-ups. We've heard about it in Tampa. He walked off, man. He walked out because he got benched in the fourth quarter. This is the guy you want to start calling out in film sessions? Look, there's a certain amount of freedom and push play. There's amount of trust, mutual trust that needs to be built between player and coach. If that trust does not exist, your players will not buy in and you will flame out as a coach. Your team will tune you out. Nick Nurse needs to give Scotty Barnes, he needs to give his starters at least, and his key decision makers, a certain amount of freedom. You cannot bench them every time they have a turnover. You cannot bench them every time they take a bad shot. You need to trust the bad and the good. Good coaches get this. Bad coaches don't. But guess what? Bad coaches, they don't last. And take it from me, got a bad coach, and I know people love him, but an idea of a bad coach is a guy like Jack Armstrong. That guy did not get this. And guess what? He's not coaching. So if you want to coach in the NBA, you got to learn that there's a way that you deal with professional athletes, and it's not the same way that you're going to deal with Grady Dick. Okay?
And I understand that, and I have no intention of coaching in the NBA. But I do believe that systems and process allow you to be successful. I think that the talent that we have on the team is there's ability to be successful. And if it means Scotty Barnes is number one, it has to be Scotty Barnes is number one.
How are you supposed to convince a max player gunning for a super max to let some rookie, to let some second-year player who can barely shoot a jump shot to be the first option because it's in the betterment of the team? The team has to decide this. You cannot appoint leaders. This is not the way NBA locker rooms work. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. What is your name? Are you comfortable giving me your first name at least? Paul. Okay. Sorry. It's just weird calling you Raps fan every single time.
Yeah, no, I
Paul. Get it. I mean, at some point, a team has to anoint their leader. Like Ja Morant, he cannot just come in as a rookie and they're just like, okay, this is our franchise guy now. People will register it and then people will accept it. Okay. And if people don't accept it, they need to be moved. LeBron James, when he came in, I don't know if you've ever Googled it, but check out what guys like Darius Miles, Carlos Boozer, Ricky Davis were saying, DeJuan Wagner, whoever was on the team at that point, were saying about LeBron James prior to them drafting him. When he was drafted, most of the guys who weren't with him coming in and being the man, they were just taken out. You have a problem with an 18-year-old being our first option? Get the fuck out. That's what the Cavs did. And you know what? The Raptors have to do the same thing. I don't think OG has a problem with Scotty running the offense. Why is OG so accepting of it? He's a 6-year vet. He wants a bigger role. He sees the bigger picture. Gary sees the bigger picture too. I don't think Fred and Pascal have ever really bought into this because they have a vision for themselves and it's tied to dollars. I guarantee you if Gary and Fred are not, if Pascal and Fred are not on the verge, like 3-4 months away from negotiating the biggest contract of their lives, they probably would have bought into Scotty being the lead initiator by now. But there's a contract to be made. And I tell you, second options are not paid the same way as first options. Guys who average 20 points are not paid the same way as 25 points. And quite frankly, a really big part of Pascal Siakam's pitch to get a max contract is those assists. He has to get those assists. He has to get those rebounds. So he's gunning for the full package. He's basically doing an aggressive version of what Ricky Davis did. And it's going to work. Someone is going to pay him a max contract. But I'll tell you right now, if he was averaging 21 points per game and 7 rebounds and 4 assists, people will be looking at him the same way they're looking at Jeremy Grant. And that's not a max player. So if you're asking Pascal Siakam to give up potentially, like, I don't know if, like, consider this. You have employees, you work in a construction company. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you give a job. Let's say you give a job to 2 guys, some drywall work. I don't know what kind of construction you do, if it's residential or commercial, whatever. But let's just say you do, pardon?
That works. That's a perfect example.
Okay, perfect. So let's say you do some drywall work and you basically give these guys a job together, and you just say to these guys, you pit them against each other basically. You say, whoever does more walls, whoever knocks down more walls today, who puts more walls up, whatever, is going to get a $100,000 bonus. And whoever doesn't isn't going to get it. And you put them in a house together to work. How insanely competitive is that environment going to be? You don't think one of them might sabotage the other one? You don't think one of them, like, you might think that's kind of like a whip and chain situation, but it is a bit of a zero-sum argument, right? At some point, 110 points are going to be scored by a team, or 112 points are going to be scored. If one guy took a free throw for a technical, that means 15 other guys didn't take that free throw. If one guy is taking a 3, that means at that time, 4 other guys are watching that guy take a 3. So there is a bit of a zero-sum game, and Scotty and OG have been the sacrificial lambs. They're the ones who are willing to let these 3 guys get theirs. The problem is Scotty has his own aspirations for the team and for himself, for his career. He wanted to be an all-star this year. He's put that on the back burner to allow to allow Pascal to chase his max, and for Fred to chase his max, because he cares about his teammates. And OG came in wanting a bigger role. And when Siakam was out, he had that bigger role and he thrived. And the Raptors were good. But when Siakam came back and Fred was starting to gun, both these guys gave way to those 2 guys. And, I just think that at some point as a coaching staff, you would think that one of these, the coach is just going to step in and be like, okay, we're going to run more offense for OG. But it's still up to the players to do it. You can say we're going to do it. They've been saying for 2 years they're going to run the offense more for OG. They've been saying for 2 fucking years that OG is going to be the second option. Why is he always the 5th option? Because his natural instinct is to pass. His natural instinct is to play make for others. He's not an idiot. He's going to find the open man. Siakam and Gary Trent, no offense to Gary Trent for all the fans of Gary Trent, I'm a bigger fan of his as well. Look at the fucking fast break today with Precious Achiuwa, where I think Pascal Siakam was wide up ahead and he didn't even look for him because he made up his mind beforehand. There are people on this team that do not play make well for others, and there are people on this team that have to pick up the slack for that. I'm sorry, but passing to the passer who makes the pass is not going to generate box score assists for you, but it is valuable. And if the Raptors if Scottie Barnes decides to play like Gary Trent Jr., they will never win another game this season. I guarantee it. It is so essential what he, Koloko, OG, Thaddeus Young, what these guys are doing for this offense, Chris Boucher to some extent as well. What these guys are doing is all the dirty work. You cannot have 5 guys just chucking. That's how you get the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, no, I agree. 5 guys just chucking is not the right mix. Again, I really seriously have to lean back on, we don't have a roster that was constructed correctly around but our roster is not being constructed around any player.
What would you suggest they do? What do you want them to do?
Well, at this point, we need to move forward. It needs to be.
I don't want platitudes. I want a plan. I don't want platitudes. I don't want move forward. I want, who do you want to trade?
It's around Scotty. I trade OG and Fred.
So
Those
you
would be
wouldn't,
my two trade chips.
but you wouldn't trade Siakam.
I think I don't necessarily agree with the look that he would not take that second role. I think he's done it in the past. I think he's not a
He did it
natural
for
leader.
Kawhi Leonard, who's a top 75 all-time player.
He knows he's not a leader. You can see it in his eyes when he does interviews. You can tell this man is not a leader. He's definitely not going to lead a professional basketball team, right? I think he's more comfortable in that second position, and that's the risk of
second position does not get paid a max contract. Whoever has filled his head with this idea,
he'll make a tidy sum. Dating myself with that term, but I think he'll make enough money in that second position and be comfortable where he is.
You remember there was a certain player who came into training camp saying he wanted to be a top 5 player in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think
so his aspirations are pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think
and his play style has backed that up.
As you said, he's in a contract year, or he's not in a contract year this year, but next year going forward, he's going to be looking to get that bag.
No, he is in a contract year because he can negotiate that contract as soon as this offseason, and he will demand to negotiate it the same way that Kyrie Irving demanded to negotiate it, or he's going to demand a trade. My question to you is, are you willing to pay a max contract where you're paying 25% of of the cap, which is going to be somewhere close to $40 million for a guy who's going to turn 30 when that contract kicks in and is going to be 35 when it kicks out, to be a second option? If you are, great.
I think
if you're not,
second options in the league at that point. I think
a great second option should be able to shoot, especially when your first option can't shoot.
I think if he had less pressure on him, specifically being that, like, look at what he did when Kawhi was the first option. That's what we could get.
He's not the same player anymore.
No,
You're living in the past,
he's a better
man.
player. He's a better player now.
He's a different player. His skill set is completely evolved to something else. Anyway, I think we're just going to go around in circles. I don't think that Pascal Siakam is willing to go back to the player he was in 18-19. I don't think he could do it if he tried. He's not the same player. He's not the same defender anymore. And a really big part of his value that he brought at that point was his defense and his shooting. I have not seen that shooting since that year, frankly. And I have not seen that off-ball movement since that year. I've not seen the dirty work.
He's not a good first option. If he's not a good first option and you're putting in that position, you're going to fail.
I don't think guys work that way mentally. I think guys prep for certain roles every single year. He has worked on his game aggressively. He has people in his ear telling him that he is one of the top 10 players in the NBA right now. He feels like he legitimately got snubbed. I guarantee you, if you got him in a private room and you said, Pascal Siakam, are you one of the top 10 players in the NBA? He would probably say yes. Now, let me tell you something. Is Scotty Barnes one of the top 25 players in the NBA? No, he's not. So how the fuck are you supposed to expect a guy who thinks that he's top 10 to take second fiddle to a guy who's not even top 25, maybe not top 35, maybe not top 40 right now? The season Scotty's having right now, he would barely touch top 50. So you were asking a guy who thinks himself to be a top 10 player in the NBA to take a back seat to a younger player who is top 50. But that's not going to fly with anybody.
I'll flip that around on you and say, would you ask somebody who's in a top 50 position to be able to constructively lead somebody who's in a 15th position? I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't think this year is the year that happens. I don't think Scotty's ready to take the mantle as of right now, because he is.
I disagree. He is ready. And I assure you, look, my claim, and I got clowned endlessly for this on Twitter, was that the minute you give him Pascal Siakam's role and usage, he will put up very similar stats on slightly lower efficiency. We have seen it in spurts. Granted, people will point to November and they'll say, look what he did without Siakam. I don't give a shit about that. I'm talking about stretches where he has played with Siakam, without Siakam. It doesn't really matter. We have seen it over the last month and a half that he is fully capable of putting up 22 to 23 points per game, 8 assists, 8 rebounds with solid defense. He doesn't tank on defense. He's leading the team in minutes played. He's done this injured. I think what he went through in November had much more to do with injuries than a lack of preparedness. And I think that he is able to do this right now at age 21 before his skill package is developed. I think that he is flashing extreme potential right now. I think the Raptors would be absolutely stupid not to build around him long term. I think they are building around him long term. I don't think Siakam is a great fit next to that, especially on the contract and his skill set as required. And I would like to see movement shooters and cutters, and Siakam does neither well right now. All right. All right, Raps fan. Paul, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate the debate. I'm glad it was not. These debates have kind of veered off into very disrespectful territory for me a couple times. I'm really glad that this one stayed very respectful. So I want to appreciate you for keeping things very respectful too. I think we lost him. All right, moving on. We got Ibu Kanate and Augustin. So, Ibu, what up? Hello? Why do I feel like I'm about to get rickrolled? Ibu Kanate, are you there? All right, we will come back to you if you figure yourself out here. Moving on. Augustin, what up? Long time, man. What's up?
Hey, man. What's going on?
Not too much. I just want to say, Brad Moore's super chat. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Super chats have been flying off the hook ever since K Money got that momentum started. And then Paul from New York, NY4 Raps. We haven't seen you in a while, but also got it crazy started. FA and all of you guys. Really, that super chat channel was amazing. So you said 3 weeks ago, you said Pascal at 25% was a good deal. No, your first trade stream. Yeah. I think it's a good deal. I still don't think he's a good fit. So 25, I think it's a movable figure where you could potentially still trade him second year into that deal. I think when you start to get into that 35% range, he becomes like Bradley Beal, John Wall level unmovable in the latter end of that deal. And I would just not want to hold a sinking asset. Yeah. So anyways, getting on to the caller. What's up?
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about direction of the team, trades. Yeah, I think this game, there's no point talking about this game. I don't see a point anyway.
Fair enough.
I mean, all you can say is, you saw the shot chart and the shots that VanVleet took, blah, blah. But, I mean, I think I've hashed it with you and you've hashed it with everybody. So I think you have to go into this trade deadline and see what you can get for Siakam and Fred, and hate to say it, but Gary probably as well. I think you reset, and it might have to be a harder reset, but I would keep OG because you always need an OG. I would keep OG. I would build around Scotty, get picks, get young prospects and what you can in return. Like I like the Suggs deal that you proposed. I watched a little bit of the earlier today, so that I think that's a good deal. I
really do. I think like people.
Siakam deal was a good deal too. You had the Siakam deal with you had a couple of them.
Blazers,
New Orleans.
One was the Blazers and one was with New Orleans.
One was the Blazers in New Orleans. Yeah,
I really prefer Dyson Daniels to Shaedon Sharpe, although I understand the appeal. If you're going to lose, you want to have a nice, exciting guy who dunks the ball a lot. But I think if you're going to rebuild, you want to have exciting playmakers around Scotty Barnes. I do see I want to say a Dyson Daniels clone in the 2023 draft and Anthony Black. I think a lot of the same upside and potential. So, he's a late lottery target. The Raptors figure to be picking in the late lottery. So if you don't get Dyson Daniels now, you might get Dyson Daniels 2.0 in the next draft.
But the Blazers is probably more possible. I'm worried about like this.
Both teams are desperate.
Have never paid the tax. New Orleans, I think they're one of two teams who've never paid the tax. So and if they pick up 35 million, whatever, 37 million next year, almost 38 million, that's just going to be a lot of money for them. And then, I mean, they could potentially make it work, but it's going to be tough. So, but I think the Blazers deal is doable, but I don't think they can trade their 2025. So it would have to be a 2026, 2028, and 2 pick swaps.
Right. Do you want me to flash the Blazers trade that I had earlier?
You had 25, 27, 29, right?
Here.
Wait, can you do it? Maybe it's right then. So maybe it's right. Because I think they have a future to Chicago. They owe a future first to Chicago.
I think they owe the 2023 pick, if I'm not mistaken. That's why they can't trade their 2024.
I think it's lotto. It's protected.
The 2023?
there's protections on it, and then it goes,
Right.
becomes a.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this is you only ask for a second round, yeah.
I asked for a second round, a 2025 first round, and a 2027 first round. Now, what is
Yeah.
the theory behind the 2027 first round? Honestly, it's because Dame Lillard is getting older. It's a small market team. You never know where they're going to be in that year. That very well could end up being a lottery pick. You might end up having to add top 3 protection to it. I wouldn't go beyond top 3. I think sometimes these later picks, like when they convey big. There was a trade, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was for Otis Thorpe, and it turned into Darko Milicic. Now, granted, the Pistons fucked that pick up, but it was still the number 2 pick in one of the greatest drafts ever. Jerry West attended that draft on behalf of the Memphis Grizzlies at the time, knowing that he would either get LeBron James or he would get no one, because the pick protection on that pick was top 1. And they got the second pick, and they had to surrender it to Detroit for a completely bullshit player that really was never worth a lottery pick. That's what happens when you convey picks way later. It's a chance, but if you're going to take that chance, you want to take it with poorly run franchises. You don't take it with Toronto. Toronto's 2029 pick, unless Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster leave, is probably like, they'll plan to be really good that year. They're not going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
But with a team like the Dallas Mavericks that, granted, they've gone through periods of lulls, with teams like the Blazers, where they have also gone through lulls. They've been in the lottery multiple times. I think that that's the type of team where a 2027 pick, especially with a star like Damian Lillard taking up so much of the cap, especially you're giving them Pascal Siakam in the trade and you expect him to decline around the same time. Like Pascal Siakam at 33, I don't think that's going to be a very good player. So you take Dame Lillard at about 35, 36, however old he's going to be at that point, 37 maybe. Pascal Siakam at 34. They're completely capped out to hell. That 2027 pick very easily could be a lottery
Might
pick.
be a good pick. Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I think right now, instead of one thing, I think you mentioned this before. Basically, it's not good to be reactive. I think they really, because I've heard that they want young prospects in return, and the thing is, most teams are going to give you either one young prospect and very young prospect, somebody like a Shaedon Sharpe, plus a couple of picks. So most of these deals are going to be really pick heavy. So they're going to be filler, pick heavy, or filler, one prospect pick. So it's not going to be the kind of deal that's going to contribute to winning. So if they have a kind of a retool plan and try to win next year, or I think it's better to let's just go all in, trade Fred, trade Siakam, just go all in right now.
It takes 2 to tango. Are you suggesting that the Blazers would not part with future picks and Shaedon Sharpe in a Siakam deal?
No, I'm suggesting this kind of. I'm not even talking about the Blazers. I'm talking about the Raptors. So the Raptors it seems to me they're being a bit reactive. All the reports are coming out that, we don't want to, break it down. We don't want to trade Siakam. We're looking for good young prospects in return. We're looking for players in return. They don't want picks. They're being really picky, and they're not going to end up with the best package. And the issue is
they prefer players to picks, as in they would prefer a Dyson Daniels.
Yeah,
right. They prefer young players because young players are certain and picks are not. However, and obviously, if for instance, you take you can't take Portland's 2023, but hypothetically, let's just say you took Dallas's 2023 before. I believe Dallas traded their 2023 pick right now. Did they?
No, they traded their 29 pick.
No, their 2023 pick has already been traded. My bad.
Yeah.
Who owns their 2023 pick? Somebody owns it. Is it New York?
I think it might be the Knicks.
I believe it's
either the Knicks or the Wiz, or might be the Knicks now, but from the Porzingis trade.
Yeah. So ultimately, if you can get. If a team that you currently, are look at the Indiana Pacers or something like that, you take their 2023 pick, provided they have it, they are going to know that they don't have a pick, and they're going to do everything in their power to make the playoffs. Anytime a team doesn't have a pick, provided they don't suffer through some catastrophic injury, they're going to be trying to win aggressively. They might make signings and trades in accordance with the fact that they don't have their own pick this year. So I think the trade deadline is an interesting time because you do have teams that are desperate, like the Sacramento Kings were 2 weeks ago before they went on their big winning streak, like the New Orleans Pelicans are now. you catch a team that has a player that's worth going to the playoffs with, like a Kawhi Leonard for the LA Clippers. They are desperate. The Lakers are desperate. They have an aging core. The Blazers are desperate. I think you just need to. The Heat are desperate. This might be. This is a great Jimmy Butler year. This is one of his best years ever. And you cannot bank on him doing this every single year. He's approaching his mid-30s now. So I think you look at teams like that, you're like, what is the price they're willing to pay for an upgrade? And you just find someone who's willing to give you your Jonas Valanciunas for what they think is their Marc Gasol. You take the youth, take the upside, you take a pick, you take a young player. We traded a young player, a top 5 player, and a pick to get Marc Gasol, knowing damn well that Marc Gasol was, at that time, granted a better player than Jonas Valanciunas, statistically a worse player than Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah.
Valanciunas routinely out-rebounded him, routinely outscored him, shot better from the field than him. So what was the big upgrade? Defense, passing, all the analytics stuff. I guarantee you Jonas Valanciunas had a higher PER than Marc Gasol that year. Guaranteed. Pretty much all his career he has.
Yeah.
But it's all that intangible stuff. You gave up the younger player, plus you added a prospect, plus you added a pick, and you're one of the best GMs in the league in Masai Ujiri. Why did they do it? Because they wanted to supplement the core.
Yeah. I mean, so a trade for Siakam, like the Pels trade is probably the best trade if the Pels were willing to do it. The Pels, other than the Pels trade, like, I mean, that fits they're asking, which is they're asking for young prospects rather than pick heavy. Because if you go Phoenix, it's going to be, A10 and some picks maybe, or
I mean,
if you go to Blazers, or if you go to Knicks, it's going to be basically, these are going to be pick heavy deals.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know I didn't bring up Phoenix, but I actually would not be surprised if DeAndre Ayton ends up a Raptor in a week or in 4 days. I wouldn't be surprised. I know that it seems like a long shot and it's a little weird, but there's some little inkling of inside information that I received today that made me lean into that a little bit.
I would do that trade. I would do like 2 picks and Ayton plus for Siakam.
You would give up picks?
No, they give us 2 picks.
Oh, thank God.
Ayton.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Ayton plus 2 first round picks, and then we give him Siakam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of DeAndre Ayton at all, so I don't like that move. But I also believe that Masai Ujiri has earned the benefit of the doubt. So, yeah. Someone said, Rob, spill the beans. What's the word? I can't. But I will tell you that there's some smoke to the like there's smoke, there's fire, whatever you want to call it. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a little bit of smoke around the DeAndre Ayton to Toronto talks right now.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. Anyways, all right. Augustin, thanks a lot for calling in, man. As always, appreciate it. Cheers.
Take care, man.
Next up, final caller of the night, Jimmy McGill. Jimmy McGill, what's up? First time caller? Hello? Hello? And, oh man. All right, Jimmy McGill, you're gone. All right. If there's one more caller that has a 10-minute call to have, by all means. Otherwise, I'm just going to go into the closing thoughts. So if someone pops up in the next 5 minutes, I will answer. After that, we're done. I just want to say that whatever happens over the next 5 days, I do trust this front office. I cannot even imagine being a fan of a team where I didn't trust the front office. Jace. All right. Soliloquy on pause. Jace, what's up?
Hey.
What's up?
I'm just wondering. Wait, sorry. Let's see. Yeah, sorry. Okay. I was just wondering, for like that Siakam Blazers trade, do you think they would go for, instead of like Siakam Flynn, if we do like Siakam Trent, and like they give us like Sharp and Simons?
I don't want Simons.
Oh, you don't like Simons?
I don't like
He's such
players.
a good offensive talent. Like we need like a really good shooter around Barnes, right?
I don't like players who don't play defense at all. And I think you saw it tonight with Gary Trent Jr. getting burned. And that's a decent defender. Gary's like an He's a
So
below average
just
defender.
just
Simons is a
imagine.
historically bad defender.
Yeah, but if you just imagine, like, if we could somehow get him to play defense, or we could learn the defensive system, you'd be
No,
insane.
I do not
He
trust.
already
I
has
do not
that.
trust that.
All right. I just don't see the Siakam to the Pels. Like, I want that to happen so bad because we get so many like.
It's
good
an awkward
players
fit for the Pelicans
Yeah,
because
it's not- I don't thi- I don't
Zion
see
and
it.
Siakam, there's too much overlap.
Yeah,
But
I don't see that happening like as much. And then I don't know if they would even go for like Fred for Dyson and fillers. I don't think they would even do that.
they do have a very undersized point guard, and they have an undersized shooting guard. So adding another undersized point guard to that would be weird. Although I have heard that New Orleans, and Fred is an option. I just don't think that with Orlando emerging, sort of scaring teams off, saying we're going to sign this guy to a max, they're setting the market on him, right?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of scares a lot of teams off because
That's-
to anyone out there who's kind of thinking we might be able to get him for 25 million, you've got this other team out there that's kind of closed the market. In a lot of ways, Jeff Weltman has sort of fucked Toronto over if he's leaking that stuff right now, because he's basically like scaring teams off from taking him.
Yeah, but wouldn't that actually also go the opposite way into making teams want to try to trade for him so then the Magic doesn't take him if they really want him that bad?
No, because now he's a rental. To whoever picks him up is a rental, or you're signing him to a max contract because he's already got a max contract set up for himself. You see what I mean? When you scare teams off like this, like you scare off trade suitors, especially if they find out from his agent that the interest is mutual, that he actually has interest in playing in Orlando. And I think we all know that Fred is going to go to the highest dollar. So once you know that max contract offer is out there and that it is firm and that it is agreed upon or that it is a mutual interest, not only do the Raptors know, but the Pelicans know, the Lakers know that if you want to keep this guy beyond this year, you're going to have to match whatever the hell the Magic are going to get him. And to be honest, if you're the Lakers and you trade for him and you give him a max, he's going to stay in Los Angeles. It's a bigger market than Orlando. Orlando's fucked. So that's where I think the Raptors need to negotiate with other teams. Find a team that is willing to give him a max contract or willing to get him close to a max contract. Because I think like if he wants to negotiate $28 million in the Lakers versus Florida has no state tax though.
I can't believe
that's the
Fred
thing.
could get a max contract. Really? Like
He can.
a max contract?
I mean, look, the Magic have nothing but youth. Okay, they have young players galore. They have Franz Wagner on a rookie contract. Freaking Jalen Suggs on a rookie contract. They have Jonathan Isaac on a very decent contract. Wendell Carter on a decent contract. This is a team that can get under the cap so easy. And, they could easily deal Markelle Fultz. I think he's an asset at this point.
So you look at Magic, they have so many just good prospects. I feel like they have a lot of like decent talent. Bunch in every single position, like the power forward, point guard, centers, they have a bunch.
Right.
I feel like they'd have to do something eventually because there's just so much that guys are getting 10 minutes. I think Suggs gets 10 to 15 minutes a night, right?
He occasionally starts for them, and he shouldn't be. Anyway, Jace, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Cheers.
Okay, bye.
Next up, we got our final caller, I guess, BOSMR. So I don't know how to say that. Bosmer, BOS Mister. What's up?
Howdy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you first time caller?
Yeah, I am.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can call me Bosmer, whatever you're good with. Cool. I just got one thing about Fred VanVleet. Last year, with his All-Star push, you visibly saw him get injured and push himself and overwork himself just to make it to the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminded me of Kemba Walker and guards very similar to that. I know very different players, but the small guard who pushes himself for that one all-star appearance just tends to fall off. And I was talking to people and I thought we should trade him way back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was wondering, it's like, do you see any correlation? It's like, should we have maybe thought about that back then? It's like, oh, we're seeing him push that and, or what are your thoughts on that?
I devoted 8 hours. No, sorry. Let me be clear. I devoted 6 hours a day last year, all year, to sleeping. I devoted about an hour a day to showering and eating. And I devoted about 5 hours a day to getting across to the Raptors fan base that they need to trade Fred VanVleet. So you're talking to the right person. And I took a lot of slack for it because people just cannot get their head around box score stats, right? People just be like, he's averaging 25, he's averaging 27, he hit 5 threes. I don't care. I see a limited upside, and here's my question. I don't think that Kemba Walker burned himself out to become an all-star.
Okay.
I don't think he burned himself out to do anything but win. And, Charlotte did not extend him. Good move on them. He was really good in his first year in Boston when he was replacing Kyrie. I think he was, per the analytics, he was pretty good. But he was injured, and then it just fell off a cliff right there. I think with small guards, small players in general, players who are not overly athletic and also small. So I'm not talking Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce wasn't overly athletic or quick or bursty, but he was big. He was like a big dude. Luka Doncic, same thing. Nikola Jokic, same thing. These guys are slow, but they're really like insanely crafty, and they're big people for their positions. When you have below average size and the league is just getting bigger at your position, the gap between you being able to get your shot off and not being able to get your shot off is so minimal. What I've noticed with Fred VanVleet over the last 3 weeks, is he's moving so much faster on offense. There's so much burst and quickness to his game right now that just was not there. It's come and go in spurts. I don't know if this is, some sort of treatment he gets and then it kind of needs to be reset, or this is some sort of shock therapy he's doing, or I don't know what he's doing. But he literally turned the page after that JJ Redick thing, that entire contract thing that came out. He was a different player. He's been a different player ever since he did that media tour. He's looked different. He's looked like his shot is going in more. He's shooting 39% on pull-up threes. Like, if I don't know if he's got a favor from the heavens, but he is a completely different player. This is not the same player I was watching. He's not. Hey, yeah, sure. And I would have been for it if they traded him last year. Although, again, it's difficult to sell a fan base on selling an NBA champion, a guy who got one All-Star, one Finals MVP vote, just made an All-Star team, homegrown talent, fan favorite. People identify with him. It would have been a deeply unpopular move to trade him, and you would have had to get such a haul for him. The problem is, sometimes it's a bit of a catch-22. You hype a guy to hell, your fan base buys it, other teams don't buy it. I don't think the market for him, even during his All-Star run, there's still other teams that would see him as a backup or see him as a third or fourth option. They're not paying All-Star money for that. So sometimes you create a monster and you're stuck with it. Yeah.
I'm just nervous about this trade deadline. Like, we're not going to let everything go to Scotty. I want OG to stay, Gary to stay, Scotty, Pascal, Fred. I think we need to move on. I love them as players. They're very vital, but I feel like we should build around Scotty. So.
Right. I'll parlay this over to you. This question, prediction: who do you think will get moved before the deadline? Thank you. If you had to pick one player on this team, Gary, OG, obviously not Scotty. I'll give you more options. Okay, how about this? I'm going to create a poll. I learned how to do this earlier during our live stream today. We did a live stream today for 4 hours. It was crazy, and we talked about 10 trades that I think the Raptors could execute. And then for the last hour of it, we were basically talking. I don't want to say talking shit about Pascal Siakam. We were like, sort of. I was listening to Coach Mo talk a lot of shit about Pascal Siakam, and so I'm gonna just create a poll here. Which Raptors starter will be traded? Okay.
I saw the one trade where it involved Pascal with Shaden Sharp and Josh Hart. I really like that one because in the offseason when the whole Kevin Durant rumors was going on, I was a big proponent of, hey, KD to Portland could be really good.
Right.
Like, that could make that team sneaky good. And I feel like Pascal discount KD, not really, but I feel like input KD into Portland could be a good.
Did you just call Pascal a discount KD?
It's not at all. I'm very loosely. Don't worry.
You know, I hung
But
up on whatchamacallit, on that guy Marco. I hung up on him. He's the first caller I
oh,
ever hung up on. You're about to become my second right now.
oh no.
Yep.
Okay. Fair
Pascal is
enough.
discount KD.
I,
You gotta go.
I
You
think they're
gots
not
to
on
go.
any.
You gots to
Okay.
go, man.
Sounds
Get,
good.
this is
Have a good
blasphemous.
night.
I'm just kidding. You know I'm kidding. Anyway, man, have a great night, man. Appreciate you. I hope he realizes I was kidding, but I also wasn't kidding. It was sort of semi-serious. And yeah, so guys, the poll is happening right now. Let me know. All right. Oh man. All right, we got 68 votes, 69 votes. Fred is decidedly in the lead despite playing his butt off. Is it because of conversations? Which Raptor will be traded? You guys are rooting for that, eh? I mean, you're not rooting for it, you're predicting it. So you guys don't think that Gary will be moved. I got 8% for Gary so far, 47% for Fred. That's awesome. So everyone's thinking Fred's going to be moved. I think you guys might be right. We're going to end that poll at 100 votes. I know this could probably go to 200 votes, but we're just going to end it so that we can ask 103. Oh my God. Okay, Fred's won this. All right. I'm going to ask you. Yeah. Okay, let's bring on Vince as our final caller. I know we've gone to final caller a couple times, but this is actually our final caller, and it's our resident final caller. He's the guy who closes all our shows. So, Vince, what up, man?
What's up, buddy?
I
didn't think I'd be able to sneak away, but yeah, no.
What are you sneaking away from?
No, my kid was crying upstairs.
Ah.
So, yeah. So I had to. So I was just watching the chat for a little bit while comforting him.
Yeah. Did you find out that we have now a poll feature? I just found out about this. I feel like
I saw it.
You know,
I just
people were making fun of, the previous. There was a previous caller who was a slightly older gentleman, Paul. They were making fun of him, and I was just like, man, I identify so much with Paul, man. I'm just like, I'm so old. I'm so young, but I'm so old when it comes to technology. Like, I do struggle with it for sure.
Oh man, if you're doing video editing, you must be, you've got
Yeah,
some
you would
sort of
think that
acumen
because
for
I
it.
do video editing that I'm good with technology. Trust me, I'm not. Like, I'm not great with
Okay.
technologies. Like, my
Fair
girlfriend
enough.
would be like, that's a keyboard shortcut for that. Can you remember that? I struggle with it sometimes. I gotta be
Yeah,
honest. But yeah,
For me, it's the Instagram shit. What
it's
are you doing? A story? What are you doing? A reel? I'm like,
uh-huh.
I don't know what the fuck the difference is.
I mean, I can deal with that. I guess it's because I have friends who are like 60 and I have friends who are 21. And so I see how great these 21-year-olds are because they grew up with like smartphone technology like in their hands almost since they were kids. It is
Sure.
different for sure. So I guess like I'm competing in a weird way. I'm comparing how they are with technology, and like they're pretty fast. It took me a while to figure out that I could actually rewind games while I'm watching them. My girlfriend's like, you can rewind this? And I was like, what kind of sorcery is this?
Yeah.
What kind of witchcraft is this? No, you can't rewind live television. I mean, it's just sometimes you settle into a, yeah. Anyways,
You've now put yourself in the same category as my dad. I just
dear
taught him
God.
how to pause while he goes to take a piss.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm dead. Okay. What'd you think of the game tonight? Did you watch it?
I caught bits of it, but I couldn't catch the whole thing.
Did you catch the fourth quarter?
I didn't. I was watching it on my phone, unfortunately, or just watching the score tick on my phone. So I was aware just by kind of looking at the stats. I'm like, well, Scotty is definitely he's definitely taken this thing over because his stats, and I think the middle of the third quarter, I think they were down 60 to 84, something like that. Like they were down by 14, 16 points, something like that. Or sorry, it wasn't 68. It wasn't a 24-point lead, but it was like 14, 16-point lead. And I just checked out the stats. I'm like, oh damn, Scotty's not doing so hot. Although I know the stats don't truly tell the story of his play on court.
They did not tonight. He hustled his ass off on defense. I really liked the defense from him tonight. 2 blocks, 2 steals, irrelevant. I just think like he contested hard, and that final play where Jaren Jackson Jr. just couldn't breathe. I mean, that's an all-star. I mean, new all-star, but he is an all-star, and you know he couldn't breathe. He couldn't get a shot off, and that's a guy who's like 6'11". So I think he competed hard. He wanted this one. I'm happy for him that he got it, even though it is a disaster for our tank.
It really is, and it's so hard to like divide your like. You know, I think you mentioned something like this. Like when you're watching, of course, your visceral reaction is you want them to get the calls, you want them to play well, you want them to do the good thing. But then your left brain starts to kick in. You're like, oh, but that's how many percentage points did we lose on potentially getting Wemby on that one? So
can I share something crazy with you? We're doing a poll right now. Which Raptor do you want to be traded? Do you know that Gary has not gotten a single vote yet? We have 62 votes, and Fred is leading it with 60% of the vote. Gary is at 0%.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I'm surprised people are
OG 10%. You guys, whoa, chat. Let me know. You prefer Gary Trent Jr. to OG Anunoby for real? I mean, crazy. I mean, okay, we got a single vote for Gary. I appreciate whoever made that vote because you know it just makes me feel a little bit better that there's we got 2% for Gary. Okay, I'm gonna tank Gary's entire thing by just talking. No, I'm for Gary coming back, guys. I'm not like against it. I want to be real about who he is as a player. Still a bad defender. Although tonight I liked it. Tonight I liked the effort. He had a couple of plays tonight where I was just like, whew, he can move his legs like that. Why doesn't he do that all the time? I think he was pretty good. Yeah, but 13% of the vote for OG, I'm just not for that. You want OG off this team? This must be the pickup legend types, you know?
Yeah, I've seen some shit on Twitter, like people who dislike OG really dislike him for his pretty much for his lack of handle, I guess.
Yeah, but are they like crazy? They don't like shooting. They don't like defense.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't. I don't know. Maybe they're just they're just blinded by. Like he does look fumbly when he puts the ball on the deck sometimes for sure, but you know that's not really his game. That's not really how he scores. I think he tries to open up his game a little bit to include a bit more of that. But yeah, that's why they want him gone. But damn, that's a versatile
okay.
right there, my friend.
Brad Moore is saying we smell value. Okay, sorry guys, I was getting very tunnel visioned about it. Who do you want traded? Because they know that OG is going to fetch them the biggest.
Yeah.
I get it, guys. Sorry, I take back my criticism of you. I get it. If you want multiple picks, you want young players. Yes, you're going to have to trade OG. I get it. Michael asks, what are your thoughts on the Kyrie trade? Vince, what are your thoughts on the Kyrie trade, man?
So I was gonna ask a similar question, or a question about the same team anyway. But my thoughts on the Kyrie trade is I think both teams won. I thought it was a great gamble for Dallas, given that they have a transcendent superstar that obviously needs a running mate, right? It's kind of weird, like it's like the two teams just kind of traded spots. Because now Brooklyn has the one transcendent guy with a lot of like pretty good role players, including Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith now, and Dallas now has the two big guns with a little bit more watered down depth.
Right.
I think they're gonna do fine. I've seen a few things go out there saying something to the effect of, oh yeah, putting two ball dominant players next to one another. I'm like, dude, like superstars figure it out, right? Wade and LeBron
do they?
Figured it out. I think so.
Sometimes they don't. I mean, that was the same theory that got the Nets into the Harden, Irving. You know, you need players that complement each other. The only way that you can actually make a case that I think Kyrie works here is because of how well he worked off of LeBron.
Yeah,
and
he made it work off LeBron and KD.
Yes. But you cannot. But yeah, but I think him and Harden was weird synergy. Although that team was very dominant. Look, the Nets were 20-4 in games that those guys played. If I'm correct, 20-4 or 16-4, they were really good. Yeah. So it clearly works. And Kyrie is, I believe, last I checked, top 10 in MVP voting so far in the MVP ladder. He's top 10. So you just added number 10 to number 2, basically. Right. That's a crazy duo. I see your point that that it's a pretty lateral. I don't want to say lateral move. I see your point that both teams won. However, I do think the Nets lost this trade. Given the circumstances, they can't really win this trade. But unless that 2029 pick turns into something truly incredible, Dorian Finney-Smith is not him, right? And Spencer Dinwiddie's one of my favorite, off guard, combo guard type players. I really like him a lot. And the Nets are hella deep right now. Don't look now, but they are like stacked depth wise.
Yuta Watanabe just got pushed out of the rotation.
Pretty much. Dorian Finney-Smith, Joe Harris. Fuck. Oh my God. Let me look at their roster for a sec. Also, may I just quickly brag about something? Hold on. Sure. Just gonna take a moment to gently. Channel, bro. I mean, yeah. If I'm not gonna brag, who's gonna brag? Yeah. All right. I just wanna give a little shout out to Pensar Basketball and to this community for making this happen. So this is crazy to me. That's nuts.
What is it? What? I don't get it. What am I looking at?
Look at the views. We have more people watching this right now than they got total views for their entire stream. That's crazy. That is nuts. Like that's too bad.
I like Randy.
Pardon?
It's too bad. I like Randy. I'm not saying it's too bad. I'm proud of you for that, but I like Randy. I want to see Randy succeed.
Do you know him?
I've met him a couple times, and he's a good guy.
Is that the guy that you said, the video producer?
No. The guy that I know who
the documentary
meet up with for beers is that he's the director of Open Gym.
Nice. Okay. Well, I have a lot of nice things to say about him because Open Gym is literally like one of my favorite things about the Raptors. So nice. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it.
So where I met Randy recently was at that guy's wedding. So,
that's crazy.
Randy's close buddies with him.
That's really cool. Well, yeah. I mean, look, I just think that. Sometimes those shows are pretty funny, right? Just guys eating chicken wings the whole time.
Yeah, really.
I've considered doing it myself, like just bringing 3 guys on and we all just munch on chicken wings and fries, and we reach for, it's funny. Bro, I have no shade towards that show. Honestly, it's cool, but it is corporate.
If you want to like get some questions in on that show at the New Orleans game, that's where we'll probably go for the beer. At like after the game, I'll meet up with him like an hour later, and yeah, they're doing that show, and he's like, yeah, let me know. Come on, come ask the question, whatever. So
you know what would be really awesome?
A real question, like you could totally do
that. You know what would be really great? Yeah. If I did the live show from there with them as my background.
Dude, that'd be dope. Wouldn't
that be cool?
I'm down for that. Well, I would.
You can co-host it with me in person.
Co-host. Yeah, that'd be wicked.
That would be funny. Okay, well, figure it out because I just need my laptop and an internet connection, and I could probably get the internet connection through my hotspot on my phone. It won't be great, but we can try. Honestly, this is where technology comes in, where I'm not very tech savvy. My computer is, by the way, guys, I wish I could turn this computer around on itself and just show you. I'm using a MacBook from 2012. It is a 2012 MacBook.
Nice. You're an OG.
Here's my phone case. Do you see the brokenness of it?
Oh yeah, that thing's been dropped.
It's busted. I mean, really, I'm like those old people. Like I literally am like those old people that you just meet and you're just like, Grandpa, is that couch from the 1970s? And you're just like, yeah, but the plastic's still on, so it's still good. Did you have grandparents with plastic? Yep, you did. Italian growing up, man.
You know it.
I do know it. Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, bro. So my question coming on here is KD up for grabs now, or are Brooklyn still going for it? Are they on the KD plus all depth tip, or are they shopping him right now?
I feel like the players they took back. So here's the thing. I think that they're going to try to make it work with KD. This deal tells me that they're trying to make it work with KD. Now, will KD demand a trade? That I do not know. But there was an offer on the table that I am told had multiple firsts for Kyrie Irving. They demanded that they get competent role players that fit Kevin Durant back. So their theory and thinking on this was that they wanted to sell this trade to KD as, hey, you lost your buddy, but we got you two really good guys. And of course, you know, you go through the trade deadline and then you revisit. He wants out again in the offseason. I think he will want out again in the offseason, to be honest. And if you're the Toronto Raptors, he'll still be a hell of a player next year. So you can look at the Siakam, and, you know, if you don't trade Siakam or, you know, well, Fred and Gary will be free agents. But if you don't trade Siakam or OG right now, you still, once again, have the most competitive offer, or one of the most competitive offers for them. And bonus, if you end up getting first round picks in some sort of trade right now for Gary or something like that, now you have extra assets to dangle there. And then who knows, maybe you're looking at a front court of KD and Scotty, maybe with
KD,
Fred
Scotty,
and Gary coming back or something. I don't know.
And OG, like, come
and
on.
maybe OG, you keep OG and then you trade Siakam and a pick or something like that. I don't know. But you know, Kevin Durant will be. I don't think he's going to be happy playing without a star. I don't think that Spencer Dinwiddie is it. He certainly did not go to Brooklyn to basically become like this is the least star-studded team that he's ever played on, ever. Right? He's always had 100%. Russell Westbrook in his prime, James Harden in his prime. He's had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson in their prime. This is the least help he's ever had. Granted, he did play an entire playoff series without Kyrie Irving. I believe Kyrie Irving went out in that final game. I think he did it without Kyrie and James Harden, or did he do it without? He did it without Kyrie, and then James Harden was hurt.
No, James was on one leg.
Yeah. So I mean, like, he's kind of done it, but he's never quite done it with a roster that is completely him and just a bunch of role players. And let's be honest, that's what Sumner is right now. That's what Patty Mills is right now. That's what Spencer Dinwiddie is right now. All these guys are role players. Yuta Watanabe. Who is that guy that used to be on the Indiana Pacers but is now on the Blazers, and he's really good. I'm forgetting his name. Chat, let me know. What's his name?
Josh Hart? No.
He's
on the Blazers now. He used to be on the Pacers.
No. He's on the Nets. He used to be on the Pacers. Nope, not Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal, another. He used to be on the Jazz. No, not Royce O'Neal. TJ Warren. There we go.
Oh, yeah,
TJ Warren. Right. Yeah, so I mean, this is a fucking deep team. Like, there are 7 or 8 guys on that team that would easily start for the Toronto Raptors tomorrow at center, or some other position, or at least KD would start on this team. Ben Simmons would start on this team, right? I think Spencer Dinwiddie would start over Gary Trent Jr., quite frankly. I think Dorian Finney-Smith would start over Gary Trent Jr. That's 4. Nick Claxton would start at center. That's 5.
Yeah.
Right? There's 5 guys who would start on your team.
True enough. You know what? I guess I'm kind of surprised that if they're still obviously trading to make their team better, but also wanting to placate to KD. I'm surprised they didn't go for a Phoenix package that included Chris Paul. I feel like that would have given.
Do you really want to get that old? You want to get that old?
Oh,
that
100%,
quick?
100%. I think this was the best trade for them long run for sure. But I think it also it could point to one of two things. It could point to that they. It could point to the fact that KD might not be fully healed. He is coming off the 2 worst injuries you can get, and then now another one this year. So it could signify like that his health is still somewhat in question. I would hate that for the league because I want to see KD do his thing for sure. But is that possible? And that trading for Chris Paul might have just been, like it wouldn't have done anything. You think that you want to know my sneaky best case scenario for this team is to trade Pascal plus stuff for KD, shut down KD for the year, and then tank, get the best draft pick possible, then come back next year fully reloaded.
I wouldn't tank. I would just let them play it out, become a low seed, let Scotty and KD build some playoff synergy, and you never know. Once you get into the playoffs, you do not take a top 10, top 12 all-time player in his prime, the guy who's probably responsible for at least 2 of the top 25 seasons in NBA history, who's still having a great year this year. When you and I did our best player in the league rankings, your first thought was Kevin Durant. That was the guy you wanted to put number 1. So, I mean, if you want to argue he's one of the top 4 or 5 players in the league, you do not take that guy and then ask him to sit.
Sorry, I'll qualify by saying this is only under the circumstance that he's actually like kind of injured this year. And
yeah. I mean, look, if you want to save him, and you just be like, okay, look, we're mathematically eliminated. Once you're mathematically eliminated, or even close to mathematically eliminated, but the Raptors are nowhere close to being mathematically eliminated right now. They're 5 games away from being 500. And I assure you, once you get a star like KD, on your team, provided it happens, and I hope that we can just talk this into existence. But if it did happen, if the Raptors, it's not going to happen. Like when I saw that trade for Kyrie, look, when I did the trade show, I was like, this could happen. After the trade show, I was like, this can't happen, because they just did this, and it's impossible that they didn't at least talk to Kevin Durant before this. Actually, I don't want to say it's impossible. There's nothing impossible with the Brooklyn Nets right now. Nothing impossible with that team.
Right.
So it's possible. I just want to say it's possible that he flakes on this, and he's privately said,
right,
I'll give it a game to see what it looks like, but if you can move me ahead of Thursday, move me. It's possible they say, fuck off, we know you're not going to sit, you love basketball too much to not play.
Right.
And maybe he has to play hardball this summer and basically say, look, I'm not going to play another game for the Nets, you trade me now, we gave it a year, I tried it out, I demanded a trade last summer, trade me this summer.
Right.
We'll see. And at that point, he'll have a little less value.
He also could still be salty at the Nets for not offering Kyrie the contract that he wanted. He's just like, listen, you got. I understand all the Kyrie off court bullshit, drama, text, tweets, Instagrams, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But the guy is a killer on the court. The Raptors found that out firsthand. Right. That guy is a killer.
Look,
so
his comments about
comments
about Steve Nash undercut any authority Nash had. Now, you can argue, I saw things from Steve Nash which made me think he shouldn't be a head coach in the NBA several times. Granted, I'm probably one of the biggest Steve Nash critics out there in the world. So I'm not a huge, I'm still pissed that he won 2 MVPs. Just completely honest, the MVP award is a very serious thing in NBA history for me. And to give a guy an MVP award for the seasons he had just pissed me off. However, as a coach, me and Shaq. Okay, me, Shaq, Kyrie apparently too, because he apparently called it out like straight up. He's just like, you shouldn't have won those awards. He shouldn't have. But irrelevant. The point is, when Steve Nash was introduced as a coach, Kyrie basically said he's not really a coach. Like, we're all kind of co-coaching this thing together. And while that is definitely true, you do not say that publicly. There is no filter. And this is kind of an ironic twist, because I have no filter and I'm accusing someone of having no filter. It's kind of like a pot calling the kettle black. But you're a professional athlete. I do think if you're a public figure and you have that much on the line, and especially when you're talking about other people, like, it makes it really difficult for Steve Nash as a first-time coach to even coach in that situation. I think Jacques Vaughn has just been able to connect with that team a little bit better. But yeah, I'm very surprised that he still demanded a trade, considering how well the Nets were playing. And, so much for friendship. He kind of just abandoned KD in the lurch, left him in the lurch. And I don't even think KD sees it that way.
I'm sure they talked. Like, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure they did too.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did too. And, is it Jaden Hardy that's on that team? The guard? I believe he is.
I think he's on Dallas. Jaden Hardy?
Hold on one second. Jaden Hardy he is on the Dallas Mavericks. Who am I thinking about? There is, hold on, Nets roster. Who is?
Not Sumner, not Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas. There we go. Cam Thomas.
Oh, okay.
So Cam Thomas, he was asked about the whole, oh, by the way, our poll is over. Who do you want to be traded? Fred wins with 55%. Second place, Pascal Siakam with 30%. OG with 12%. And Gary musters 3% in terms of guys you want to be traded. I mean, in fairness, guys, in the broader context of that poll, I fully understand why Gary Trent Jr. is not higher up because the value is not as high. I get it.
For sure that
Yeah.
people would
So
want
Cam
Pascal
Thomas
to
was
more
asked
come back.
about the Kyrie thing, and he was just like, "Look, that's my brother. He's been a great teammate. He's someone that I consider a real brother." By all accounts, teammates like this iteration of the Nets have loved playing with Kyrie Irving. So
100%.
his issue may have just been with Joe Tsai and management, and he is not. He is a. People may find it really hard to believe, but Kyrie Irving is a very smart person. I've listened to him talk for years
Agreed.
now. I'm talking going
Agreed.
back like 15 years ago. Okay. 15 years ago, 14 years ago, around there. Like when he was still in high school, I was listening to this guy talk. It is
Agreed.
impossible to make a coherent argument that he is a stupid person. He is a very opinionated person. He may be misguided in some of his opinions, and I think that's putting it lightly. There are some opinions that he holds that are extremely controversial and perhaps even toxic and not right. But calling him stupid because he thinks the earth is flat is just something that I think people do that to make themselves feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
No,
it's
he's not a stupid
disingenuous, for
person,
sure.
and I don't think he's a bad person. I really don't. I think that he is a
Me
misguided
either.
person, just like I don't necessarily think Kanye West is a bad person. I think he's just very misguided. Sometimes there's a cost of genius. I will never forget. There was a quote. There was a reporter who went into the Cleveland locker room once when LeBron James came back, and they asked Kyrie Irving whether LeBron James had been a really good leader in the locker room and was kind of like a father figure coming back.
Oh yeah.
And he immediately cut it off, and he just said, "I have one father. His name is Drederick Irving." And it was just like, it was so cutthroat, and it was so nice, and it was so polite. And he saw where that guy was going with that question before he even asked the question. And I was like, that is intelligence. It's the same thing I see in Christian Coloco. It's the same thing I see in Scotty Barnes. His eyes light up when he knows that a question is framing in. It takes intelligence to spot intelligence sometimes. I am an intelligent person. I will just boastfully say that about myself. I am pretty smart, and I can see smart when I see smart. And Kyrie Irving's smart. I think he'll figure it out with Luka Doncic. If there's any two players that I expect to be able to figure that out on the fly, it's those two. I am somewhat disappointed for Kevin Durant. He's one of my favorite players that he's just sort of been left, but I'm excited to see what he can do with this team.
It's so sad. It's so sad to see. Yeah, I guess like he's gonna have to carry them. That's for sure. They're like him and Spencer are like the only two like creators, and even using the words creator for Spencer is that's being given.
I've seen him. Look, I mean, like he was on the Nets before. He was great.
For sure.
Wasn't he? He was on the Nets before, right?
I actually like him as I've wanted the Raptors to trade for him in the past. I like him as a player. I think he's a smart player. I think he's competent on defense, and he's got a bit of game to him for sure. He's not like blazing past guys in the lane and putting super pressure on the rim, but he's a competent player. But oh man.
If the Raptors met this version of the Nets, in the playoffs, hypothetically, let's say this version of the Nets surges off and wins, gets the 3rd seed, and let's say the Raptors get very lucky and go on a streak and they end up at the 6th seed and they face this team, what do you think the outcome of that series would be given the current rosters? Now, granted, provided the Raptors make it to 6th, they would have to be way, way, way better than they are right now. But assume nothing changes on the roster and they just happen to surge up. What do you think the outcome of that series would be now that Kyrie Irving is gone?
I don't think the crowd wants to hear what I'm going to say.
Well, K Money is saying they would get swept, and he even gave a broom emoji.
Yeah, more zip Brooklyn. That's what I think.
Jesus. So you think Brooklyn would do to us what Boston did to Brooklyn?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
KD is another animal, bro. He's like, it's just, I like every Raptor, including Pascal.
May I just point out, though, that the Raptors have kind of kept Kevin Durant in bay so far this year, and it is Kyrie Irving that has absolutely destroyed them in second halves. Now, granted, because of the way this idiotic schedule is played out, we are not going to get to see this version of the Brooklyn Nets, but I'm telling you, now this is going to shock some people, I think we could actually win a game or two against that team.
Yeah.
I do, because Ben Simmons is a non-shooter. I think their defense is awesome, but Ben Simmons is a non-shooter. I think we can get hot. I don't think we would get swept. I think we would win one game. Man,
as somebody who's like kind of followed Ben Simmons' career to some degree, I'm not like a Ben Simmons stan or anything like that. But I've watched that guy play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he's gonna have like I don't know what kind of effect he's going to have on this team. Those, like, I'm pretty sure Jacques Vaughn has come to the conclusion that, like, we can't have Simmons and Claxton on the court at the same time, and Claxton's better, so he's going to be playing, right? Like, Ben Simmons has been clocking, like, even when he has been on the court and not injured, he's been putting up like 22 minutes a game or something silly like that, just because he can't do anything to attack the rim. He's afraid to get fouled. He's afraid to shoot. And so, okay, like, well, we have a center who's kind of better than you at finishing at the rim, and you know, and even defensively to some degree, guarding other centers. You know, he can't stick with the perimeter guys as well, but he's actually still pretty good at that, Claxton. So I don't know, man. I don't see Ben Simmons even really adding much to this team at all. I think it's going to be the other guys.
I'm gonna ask the community as our final poll of the night: Raptors versus Nets playoff outcome. So it's either gonna be Raptors win 4-3. Wow, that actually got a vote already. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh no. Nets, I officially retire. I retire from YouTube. We got Raptors win 4-3, leading the fucking way. I mean, in fairness, all the other three options are Raptors lose, so that's fair. Like, I mean, that's technically a 37% vote for the Raptors, but that's incredible. Sweep is getting 20%. All right, so people kind of agree with me that the Raptors would manage to win one or two games at least. Some people are very optimistic. They believe that Ben Simmons is a straight up scrub. They believe that Spencer Dinwiddie should be in the G League, and they probably believe that Edmund Sumner is trash. But Tamberlin says, what if KD ends up getting hurt? Good freaking, you know, like, possibly. I mean, but then you end up, look, talent-wise, Nets, even after this trade, Nets, trade-wise, like talent-wise, I definitely think that the talent equation is definitely depth there. It's in favor of them. So someone's saying KD will get hurt. How do you know that?
Yeah, we don't know.
Michael, Ben is a scrub. No, he is not. No, he is not a scrub. We need to stop talking about really, really great defenders like they're scrubs. You know, I took a really big issue today at halftime. Sam Mitchell and Leo Roughton sort of talking shit about Jaren Jackson versus Pascal Siakam. And they're kind of saying, like, how is he an all-star if Siakam's not an all-star? It's just such an, you know, and now I see the breadcrumbs for why our fan base thinks the way they think. Because they've been listening to these guys so long. And all they can see is, oh, well, one guy's averaged 25 points a game, the other averaged 17. Would Pascal Siakam average 25 points per game if he was playing next to Ja Morant and fucking Dylan Brooks and fucking Desmond Bane? Like, we just watched Desmond Bane. Like, would he? No. Would he average 17 points per game? Would he average 25 points per game if he was playing 26 or 27 minutes a night like Jaren Jackson Jr. does? Because the Grizzlies actually have some fucking depth.
No,
they don't have to run their...
He'd probably average 21, but shoot 55% from the field.
Would he average 3 blocks a game though? No. Would he be an all league defender? Would he be putting up one of the greatest defensive players? See, this is my point, right? Would he have an plus 11 net rating? I mean, my God. Like, I made a poll on Instagram, Jaren Jackson, Pascal Siakam, and thank God Jaren Jackson won in a landslide in that poll. But I am still surprised when fans underrate this guy. I get it. He's not an isolation scorer. That's not all basketball is. There's so much more to basketball. And I think, you know, he's developing, man. He's 23 years old. He's 23 fucking years old, and he's putting up this type of season. My God. We put him 20th, and people were up in arms. I got emails about it the next day. Like, how can you put Jaren Jackson Jr. top 20 player in the NBA? I just did. That's how I feel about it.
He's in the same way that people talk about OG being like so versatile, and you could stick him on any roster in the league, and he would fit in any starting 5 in the league. Would love to have a guy like OG. That's the same for Jaren Jackson, but even better. You know what I mean? Like a guy who can, you know, like what's his 3-point shot at? Like 36%, something like that. Like keeps you honest. So it's
above league average.
Yeah, effectively space the court and block shots like a monster. Probably fouls a little bit too much for my liking, for sure. But that guy. You could put that dude on any team, and they would be over the moon to have him. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like his contract is actually pretty good too. Do you know what it is?
I think he's on a max contract.
Is he on a max? Okay.
He should be. If he's not, he should be. Hold on.
He's
There's
really
no
good.
way. I mean, he's a top 4 pick, man. His contract is oh no shit. What? Oh my god. 4 years, 105 million.
This is what I'm saying, bro. The guy makes $25 million a year.
Oh, that's crazy. That's insane.
Fred wants 30 something. Fred.
Yo. Does he have the same agent as OG? Why the fuck did he agree to this? Well, he agreed to it because he was injury prone early on in his season, in his career.
Yeah, true.
If I recall correctly. I mean, I am shocked. I hadn't looked into his contract before because I've never even thought about trading for him because I never thought, the Grizzlies would ever trade for him. But I'm very shocked that he's making that little money.
$26 million a year for that dude.
I mean, Bam gets a fucking max. He's better than Bam. Way better than Bam. People say that Bam's better on offense. I disagree. It's close. He's not way better. Like, fuck out of here. He's not way better.
That when we talk about these fives, so the Raptors won the chip essentially with 2 of the better spacing fives in the league. Right? Gasol hit it at like 38, 39%, and Serge, I feel like, was like 36, 37. Something like that.
And Siakam was 37 too. Siakam was 37 that year. Also, just a quick context on Jaren Jackson Jr. This year is a massive outlier in terms of value added. So per context, box plus minus first year negative 0.3, next year 0.4, next year 0.1, next year negative 0.1, and now this in his 5th season at the age of 23, he is at 3.6 box plus minus, 2.6 defensive box plus minus. His win shares have jumped up. His PER has skyrocketed. True shooting is highest it's ever been. Assist percentage lowest it's ever been. Block percentage has gone from 5% as a rookie to nearly 11% this year. He's kept his turnovers low. His usage is identical to his rookie season. So just to put that into context, he's twice the player and his usage hasn't adjusted one bit. It's lower than it's been in the previous 3 years. Per 100 possessions, he is averaging 29 points per game. I just want to compare this to Siakam. And I'll put it on the screen. I'm very curious about this. I'm so happy I learned how to do polls. I gotta be honest. What I wish I could do is have somebody be a video coordinator, and then every single time I want to introduce a poll, right? I could bring on that soundbite from Scott Hall. Survey says.
Oh, survey. Yeah.
Survey says one more for the bad guys, or one more for the good guys. Was it? It was one more for the good guy. Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Wrestling references.
You were on that wrestling tip. I was on the Monday Night Raw tip. I think I was probably a little bit older than you.
How old are you?
I'm 44.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, bro.
what am I thinking? We're like almost the same age. And you're telling me I'm like your dad? Yo.
No. I never said that.
No, you because I can't figure out TiVo. I'm like your dad.
Because of the TV thing. Yeah. I just compared you because I literally had that thing this week. I'm like, Dad, you could pause. You could pause shows.
Okay, per 100 possessions, the difference between Siakam and Jaren Jackson. I'm going to post this on the screen because I need people to fucking see this. Oh, I need people to see this in a big way. All right, let's check it out. Give you context. And I promise you, once you see this, you can't unsee it. It's going to be what it is. It's going to haunt your dreams. Here we go. Here is the comp. Now, here we go. Okay. How do you feel? Okay, Vince, you mind me bringing on Tamberlin? We're gonna close the show out. I promise. I'm gonna set an alarm, and there's not gonna be a minute over that alarm. I've already streamed for 4 hours today, and this is 2 hours and a half. So I'm gonna set an alarm just so we don't go to 4 hour stream because I know that we can get we could all get very chatty. And there was someone commenting.
I also gotta dip if I got.
You gotta get back to your kid.
No, okay. If he starts crying, only if he starts crying.
Okay. Let's bring on Tamberlin, and I'm gonna set my alarm for 11:40 p.m. So that means we get 15 minutes to close the show out. Tam, what up?
Hey, I just thought I had to come on. It just felt like apropos.
Apropos. Okay, nice word. Okay, wait. What was the comment that sparked the I have to come on? I'm just curious.
Oh, I just was sitting here watching the two of you and thinking of how much fun I had on Saturday. So
That's true. We had a lot of fun and a lot of confusion rating all those players.
Fun time.
How do you feel about how do you feel about our top 20 rating now that you've had some time to sit on it?
think
Is there someone
maybe
like you're
I
like,
was a
oh my
little
God, I wish?
Luca. Probably I should have been higher on. Yeah, there's a couple. I'm a little brain dead right now because I've been writing all day. But yeah, I did have buyer's remorse on a couple that I thought, oh, that was a bad move. Maybe should have been higher.
I think I went too high with Tyrese Halliburton, putting him
Yeah,
at
that was
11th.
one I thought about. That was definitely one. I really like him though.
I love him.
But
I think he's awesome.
but
I just really love watching him play. I wonder
I
how
s-
Leo
Did we
felt
I
about that.
did we have Kyrie in
yeah.
our top 20? I don't remember.
K
I
Money
think
saying,
that
dog,
was
y'all rating Tatum over Luca made me cry. I'm so sorry, K Money. We didn't want to make you cry. I think it made a lot of people like very upset, to be honest, because people are
yeah.
not used to seeing Tatum represented there. And in all honesty, yeah, like I think you can make a very solid case that Jason Tatum shit the bed in the finals, right? He was not the same player. I could also make a solid case that he was absolutely burnt out and that he had a shoulder issue that was just holding him back. And he did not look like the same player we saw earlier. And I don't think it's because of what the Warriors did. I think it was just injury. I would like
Yeah.
to see what he does in this year's playoffs. I understand Luka has been a super dominant player, but what I would like to talk about and probably close this chat out because it's something that's been on my mind, and you guys can let me know if you don't want to talk about it. We won't talk about it. I won't railroad you, but I want to talk about this concept of high value possessions on offense versus low value possessions on offense, and how certain players will have high value possessions wherein what I'm trying to say is that they'll have screens, actions, and the offense kind of geared and catered to getting them open versus other players will just be sort of asked to get low value possessions. So out of scrambles, random end of clock shots, contested shots, just do your own thing. And I want to talk about how that difference can drastically change the numbers that we're looking at when we look at someone's scoring average.
Did you not see? Maybe you didn't notice today. I was on Twitter with this guy that's a big Pascal fan, and I kept sending him responses saying, "Did you just see that play? He just ran into four people while everyone was standing around, and instead of
Right.
passing the ball, Pascal." So yeah, and I was trying to point that out. So I kept tweeting him, come to Pensair basketball after the after show, and we'll read you into some reality.
Okay, quick
So
note on Italian pronunciation. It's not Pensare, it's Pensare. Number one. Number two,
I'm
I want
sorry,
to
sorry.
I got to correct something. You were right when you were saying shy, and we were all saying Shay last show. I confirmed it with somebody. It is actually shy. So wow, everyone's been wrong all along. Also, I'm gonna add 5 minutes to the timer and bring Coach Mo on. We try not to do repeat calls, but we haven't done 4 calls, and I gotta be honest. If you're gonna compete with this show, you gotta have 4 people. Okay, so we're gonna have Coach Mo on. Coach Mo, how you doing? We're adding 5 minutes to the clock. What's going on?
I'm great.
Well, we need y'all faces. We need y'all faces.
Great. I'm just
Yeah,
conversation.
Yeah. So the concept of high value. Are we cool with talking about that for the next 10 minutes while we close the show out?
Yeah, it's basically an offense geared towards one person, and then crumbs. The other guy gets crumbs, and he works with scraps.
Facts.
Siakam.
and kills the offensive chemistry and flow.
It's basically Pascal Siakam versus OG Anunoby.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I want to talk about. Because when Siakam was out, look, we posted the numbers yesterday, and it looks pretty impressive, right? OG Anunoby, decent splits, 22 points per game, Raptors 5-5. I think they were doing okay. I realize OG Anunoby is a way less refined and way less fluid and way less interesting looking isolation scorer than Pascal Siakam. But a lot of things that help isolation scorers get open are screens and actions and all of these. So like if you run double pin down or like Spain pick and roll, whatever, for a shooter, that shooter is going to be way more open. We saw it today when I believe it was Fred VanVleet or Gary Trent. Someone was demanding that Chris Boucher set a better screen to get them open. I believe it was Fred VanVleet, right? It was Fred. So that's kind of what I mean. How many times will Scotty Barnes have a screen set for him? Now, in the late quarters, like when we see Scotty like really pick it up, I think a couple of times we've seen it against Brooklyn, Milwaukee, tonight, etc. You will start to see the offense actually hunt for him like they do for Pascal. They'll screen set for him. They'll set picks to get him open off the ball. They'll get him coming off a pin down. He'll pop up to the top. All of these actions are designed to generate mismatches. Siakam is consistently, they're doing a lot to get guys off of Siakam. So all of this is going to drastically change what you see as numbers next to these guys' names. So I guess, I don't know. Did I just say it all? Like, I mean, I'm open to you guys, like kind of just hearing what you guys think every single player on this team could do with that type of good value possessions. Like what could Gary, OG, Scotty, what could those guys do with really high value possessions? Or do you think they are already getting a lot of high value possessions?
I think if I can jump in real quick, I think the lack of a real center who can set those screens. You know, like Koloko does a decent job of it as a rookie, but can you imagine OG getting screens from, say, Steven Adams? His handle might look a little better.
I'm with you,
right?
But OG has been Christian Koloko has been damn impressive. Best on the team,
rookie for sure.
Best on the team, but I mean also as an underdeveloped physical rookie. So I just want to say that once he gets he's leading the team in screen assists, and he's leading the team in shot contests per 100. I just want to be clear, per 100, per 75, per minute, whatever you want to say, any per rate, because he doesn't play a lot of minutes. But with his time on the court, he's dove hard to the basket. Just Fred has routinely not found him. Pascal's not finding him, whatever. They do find him on occasion. And when they are finding him, sometimes he's a very inconsistent finisher. However, I do see that improving a lot next year. And I also see short roll potential passing out of there in the middle of the floor. I think this guy could be an amazing player for you. I would like to bring in a very aged vet to teach him the ropes the way that Steven Adams did during that one possession where he was kind of coaching him on how to get box outs and stuff. I would like to see a guy like Marc Gasol come in and or Serge Ibaka, someone who has been around the circles, not Kem Birch, but someone.
McGlure.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Jamal
you know,
All-star.
Summertime with Hakeem.
You know what? Shout outs to Jamal McGlure for doing community barbecues in my community every single year. Every single year he's done it, and it's super cool.
Big cat.
Big cat. He's a huge human being. Have you met him?
I have. I came up to his navel.
Oh my God, you're tiny.
I'm 5'2".
Oh my God, I was just like, bro, I came up to his shoulder and I was like, what the fuck? I mean, clearly, you hear about guys who are like 6'11", but sometimes you meet guys who are 6'11", you're like, you're not fucking 6'11". He's every bit 6'11". He's huge.
Oh yeah. So didn't we get? First of all, Scotty is the guy that leads the Raptors even before today on clutch time minutes, fourth quarter minutes. So he must be gunning for the Jerry West Award this year. But I think we got, to answer your question, didn't we get a sign of exactly what that offense would look like when Pascal was forced to the bench and Fred was sitting with him? Because the comeback occurred with Scotty, Precious, Malachi, Uncle Thad, and who was the fifth? Who am I forgetting? Chris Boucher.
Chris Boucher. How could you forget
that? That was who brought us back today, and we saw the offense, and we saw it moving, and everyone was touching it, and we got back in the game. So that's what happens when the ball moves.
Wasn't that 5-man lineup responsible for bringing them back into the game twice? Like I saw,
they've done it quite a few times. Scotty plus the bench Scotty plus one starter plus the bench is the magic formula, provided that one starter is not Pascal Siakam. It could literally, it has been OG before, it has been Fred before, it has been Gary before. That's the magic formula.
Today.
Scotty, it was Gary, wasn't it? It was Gary at times today.
Well, there was two different. There was variations of it in the fourth quarter when they came back. Initially, it was Chris, Uncle Thad, Scotty, Precious, and Malachi. But Gary did. Malachi. I said, yeah. Malachi was on point with Scotty, Precious, Thad, and Chris. But there was a point where Gary came in, I think, instead of Malachi.
Right. No, there was, and then I believe there was another stretch where Fred was in place of one of those guys as well. Because
right, but in the fourth
some
quarter,
point
there was a good spell where they were both sitting, both Pascal and Brad.
That is true. Yeah.
And when Fred came in, it still kept flowing though, to Fred's credit.
So Daryl says no, it was Malachi, Scotty, Chris, Thad, and Gary. Precious was on the bench with Siakam and Fred.
It was both.
I seem to I could be wrong. I seem to remember Precious on the bench as well, but I could be wrong. Yeah, because I definitely remember Chris and Thad. I definitely remember Malachi and Scotty. I don't remember Gary though. So I mean, whatever. It could be Gary, and then he gets subbed out for Precious. Whatever. The point is, at some point, Pascal and Fred were on the bench in the fourth, and there was a stretch in the second or third quarter where it was also similar, and it was a completely different lineup, but it was. Basically, the formula was Scotty plus a starter plus 3 bench players, and typically one of those bench players being Chris Boucher. It just has good energy, good synergy, a lot of off-ball movement. You'll often see Scotty just like catch the ball, and he'll survey, and he'll try to do something, and he's demanding someone cut, and nobody cuts, nobody moves, and he just has to launch a contested fadeaway or a stupid shot, and he didn't want to do it. And guys have to get open. You have to get open. Whenever you play with a really good passer, you have to get open, especially a willing passer. I think the problem is so often, like I saw it earlier in the season when the Raptors were playing 500. Pardon?
They have to switch mindsets really quick.
Yeah, I saw it earlier in the season when the Raptors were close to 500 that there was a lot of off-ball movement. There was Thad trying to move. There was, Precious was trying to move.
Depends on who's on the floor. That pass by Scotty today up court, oh my God, what a beauty.
The bounce pass?
The breakaway? Oh my God, that was
the
one
one
to
pass?
Precious. Yes.
We are at a stage now.
I lost my mind over that pass. It was so good.
The Precious one?
It was a breakaway. He threw the ball, he got it, and he immediately looked up and threw it between 2 Memphis Grizzlies and was right on the money. Precious just did 2 strides and dunked it. It was amazing. I was just losing my mind.
There was another
Such
one
a great pass.
He threw a bullet to Thad's chest in traffic, and Thad got fouled under the rim. There was another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They move.
You surround him
with the right personnel. They move. So that's the thing.
Well, that's exactly it. You just need guys who know how to play basketball, right? And it's so funny because I think for people who don't know how to play basketball, they don't understand how common just these basic reads are. Like it's AAU, high school, like this is very common shit. Like just moving without the ball, catch, pass, relocate. How many times were you taught that in high school? Coach Mo, do you teach that?
Well, the kids I teach are pretty young, and not all of them can dribble while looking up. So we got issues with that. But
I feel like you still need to teach them these fundamentals right now just to counteract what they're watching on television every night. You just need to teach them, like, if you pass the ball, I need you to screen for somebody or relocate or cut. Do one of those 3. Make a decision. Try not to bump into the other kids. You'll create
drills. You can't dribble there's like certain drills. You can't dribble more than 3 dribbles. You can't hold the ball for more than 3 seconds. Things like that to get them getting rid of the ball. Right.
But, yeah.
Question. Pascal we've seen him pass the ball before. We've seen him make proper reads before. The All-Star game has been over. He didn't make it. Maybe he will, as a reserve, we'll see, like, if someone gets hurt. But why today I saw it 3 times where he would check back into the game and immediately the offense stopped and got clogged down and he was forcing his shot. What is going on in his mind? Because I know that he's not the best at making these reads, but he's still He's almost gone so far to the other side. I don't understand.
He only passes when he has to, when he's stuck, right?
Oh, that one
Yeah, that's
pass
the
to
thing.
Chris at his ankles today was so bad.
Yeah, even the pass that he made to Scotty that was somewhat like a great pass or whatever, you can see when a guy plans and when a guy stumbles into it. He stumbled into that pass.
Yeah.
And while it was a good pass and Scotty made the three, let's be honest, passing to Scotty Barnes for a three is not a high value play by any metric.
No, that's always there.
It's always
it's a
going to be there.
conscious
The defense
shot.
is literally giving you that shot. Passing to Precious Chua for a three is not a high value play. Passing to Precious Chua for a dunk. Now Fred VanVleet, that nice little boop, touch pass
That
that
was
he made
great.
to Precious Chua, and then Precious
when
Chua
he-
goes down. That was
Yeah.
great. That was great.
And the
Where the
dunk,
hell has that
yeah.
been the whole season? So I really like, again, this is another game from Fred VanVleet where I have no complaints. And you'll see
Yeah.
he didn't shoot the ball well tonight. He still moved the ball, and he still contributed to winning. I think he defended about as hard as he can at this point. But yeah,
But the point is, it's a
Based
conscious
on,
decision by Pascal,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Why is he? We saw him at the beginning of the season move the ball. We saw it at times last year in the playoffs. What is the reasoning? I'm asking behind it. Like now he's not on. He didn't make the All-Star team. What's the reason to come into the game when he sees it flowing and moving and immediately go to this decision to only call his own number or only pass it when he's in trouble?
That's just how he plays.
And then vanish in crunch time.
That's just how he plays.
But he
don't want it.
He
He doesn't
doesn't
want it
have
late.
to. He didn't play like that on the championship year because he wasn't the man. So if he went back to playing like you're not the man, which you're not, but you're a man, whatever. But like if you just go back to playing the way you did in the championship year, bro.
Look, you have people in
team
this
is on
guy's
another
ear,
level.
from his agent to everybody around him, telling him he is the man. You're not going to be able to convince him he's not the man until someone actually usurps him as the man. And I don't think Scotty's I think Scotty's sort of done that already in a way. Like he's dominated fourth quarter scoring, clutch scoring, etc.
Right.
Regardless of how you think he's doing it, whatever, he's done it with Siakam on the floor. He's done it without Siakam too. Like he's had some pretty dominant fourth quarters. I don't think he needs Siakam to do this. Like it's not
What do you
like
think goes through
affecting
head
his.
when he sees this? What do you think
Huh?
goes
He's
through Siakam's
cooking.
head when he sees these dominant Scotty fourth quarters? What do you think goes through his head?
I don't know. There goes my spot. Like I don't know. Should
So what
I be doing that?
happens? What happens?
remember
More
in the
importantly, what
playoffs?
happens if Fred gets traded? How does Pascal respond? Because Fred is the alpha on that team. No matter what anyone wants to say, he's the one in the locker room that has the voice. Or over Pascal, I would say Pascal is quieter, so he's more of a follower in that regard when it comes to talking. So if Fred is gone and he's lost his guy, how does he react? Because to me, as much as Fred has his limitations in terms of size and things, he at least can adapt and work with Scotty. We've seen it recently. He's been playing great. So he, for me, is the better pick to keep. But odds are if one of them goes, it's more likely Fred because of the contract situation and because teams are now all hot that Kyrie was in the conversation. Everyone's thinking point guard and we need to do something to react and upgrade our talent. So Fred's stock has risen. If you're Masai, you have to look at that, right? But how does Pascal react if he leaves?
Pascal halfway checked out. He's halfway checked out this year.
I mean, in fairness, I do want
If
to
his
say
best
that the
friend
Dallas
leaves-
Mavericks were one of the options for Fred VanVleet. So in a weird way, one of your options, one of your very few options, by the way, to trade Fred VanVleet, there aren't a lot of teams that are looking at this guy, have just gone out the window. That was...
I don't think he's getting traded.
There's rumors that Kawhi wants either Kyle or Fred with the Clippers, but
Yeah, I've heard those rumors too. I don't think
championship. He's trying to win another 2019 championship.
I don't believe that. I just don't. I cannot, like, I can buy the Kyle thing. I don't think they have the salaries to make that work. $30 million is a lot of money to match in salaries for Kyle Lowry. I understand why people are running with it. The Fred thing seems more feasible, but they're not willing to get rid of Terrence Mann. Like, what are they going to give up? Like, they don't really have any picks that they can really give up. So yeah, I don't really see the Clippers being able to do that. But you know, kudos to the Clippers for trying to convince their fan base that they are trying to fix things. How the hell is getting rid of Zubac going to make them better?
Yeah.
I know that. That's why I laughed
not gonna
after. What,
Yeah.
Pat Riley
I don't
calls
think
you
they're
and
gonna
you're
get rid of-
Messiah and offers to send back Kyle for Fred. Do you do it?
Yeah, I already did it in the trade show.
With nothing
I haven't had a
attached.
chance to watch. I've been writing all day.
No, not
I-
with nothing. This was the trade, right here.
You think
How did it do in the poll? I just flipped in a couple times and saw that you were putting up a few of the people that we talked about, like Isaac and with the Magic, and a couple of the guys I like. I was like, I got to come back and watch this one. I can fully invest in it.
Yeah, well, I timestamped it for anyone who wants to check out the trade show. If 3 hours of Pinsire basketball wasn't enough for you, maybe 4 hours will do the trick. I think we got into a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of Siakam slander towards the end of it, and there's me prognosticating where Kyrie Irving will go and being at least 1/3 right. I felt like, man, like I was like, wow. I had to go back and check. I'm like, please God, tell me I said Dallas, because like literally we're doing a show and Coach Mo asked me on the show, like, where do you think Kyrie's going to go? And I thank God I said LA, Dallas, Miami. I guess those were the three things.
I heard Josiah refused to trade him to the Lakers out of spite. He did not want to send Kyrie to where he wanted to go.
They also didn't have the package. The package
I doubt that.
They offered,
they didn't have
they
the, they
offered
didn't have the right.
Westbrook and 1 first-round pick and maybe Lonnie Walker, and that Marks went with. I think I saw that Woj put this, that Marks went with the Mavericks deal because he was getting a point guard back in Dinwiddie and a plug-and-play wing, so he liked that package better. I mean, I'm sure that
Sean
KD
Marks
wasn't
wasn't
thrilled
licking
about
his
getting
chops. Sean Marks wasn't licking his chops at the prospect of pairing
Over
Russell
Russell?
Westbrook and Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton in the same unit. That would be great. I would
And
literally
Kevin
watch.
Durant.
I think like
KD
that's.
and Russ back together.
I think like Kevin Durant would blow his brains out like tomorrow if he had to like play. He would sit out. He would demand a trade or sit out. He's not playing with that lineup. It would just be the worst.
They made that trade because they got two guys, like two very good role players under contract for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And they got their draft pick. That was the best trade that they could trade partner they could have had out there. I think Joe Tsai's like, that guy's a how many times billionaire over. If a trade with the Lakers would have benefited his team, he would have done it all day, every day. I don't think any personal vendetta or attack or qualms with
LeBron did a
for that
cryptic
reason.
tweet. Did you see?
I did see that. I didn't understand what it meant though. What did the tweet mean? I don't get it.
Yeah. Just for anybody, I have just put Phoenix play Z in a 5-minute timeout, partly because we're closing the show in 2 minutes, and I don't believe in censorship, but I also don't believe in dominating an entire chat. I've done it. I did it once on the Raptors show. I'll admit I'm not a hypocrite. I will admit that I did it once. They were talking about Scotty, and I just went in and I was like, "This is bullshit." I did that. I get it, but I left when I was asked to stop. I left. I did it for about 5 minutes and I left.
Real quick, if Kyrie doesn't stay, if Kyrie leaves in the offseason, should Luka Doncic be like, all right, I'm off this, because they have no assets? Like if he leaves, this has to be a wink. He's gonna resign with the max. Why would you trade?
No. He's already agreed. They've already agreed to sign him.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no way they make this
like,
trade. They traded a 2029 unprotected first-round pick. They traded Spencer Dinwiddie, and Dorian Finney-Smith. These are probably Luka's second and third options right now.
Yep.
So
Dallas already agreed. Dallas confirmed they need more trades before the deadline. This isn't it.
what more can they trade?
Oh yeah, no, sorry, Dallas. I think Dallas' real run is next year. I think they'll do okay. I feel like they can make the West the West Finals possibly this year, depending on how the matches
wing. Who's their defensive wing?
Oh no, they got nobody. I mean, they've got Christian Wood,
Tim Hardaway Jr.,
Timmy, Kyrie, and Luka. That's not a good defense right there. So I think next year is the year that they're really gonna. They might try to go after Jay Crowder again. I think next year is the year that they're gonna go for it.
I think the Lakers are desperate, and Masai and them, they might need a strike because they're sad over there in La La Land. We could
In
get
terms
to
of positive LeBron players on this team, and LeBron, I mean the metric LeBron, there are several positive players on this team. One is JaVale McGee. He's a center, a low-use center, making $5 million a year. Maxi Kleber, who's one of my most underrated players.
Love
Reggie
him.
Bullock this
Love
year
him.
is
Injured.
Reggie Bullock is a negative LeBron. He's a negative 0.07 LeBron,
His hair's
6.7 PER. He's having the season
I
from
like
hell.
Dwight Powell too.
Dwight Powell is 15 PER, 0.19 LeBron. Dorian
Josh
Finney-Smith
Green.
and Josh Green is negative. So
Was
Spencer
he?
Dinwiddie was positive. Yep. Davis Bertans is negative, and Davis Bertans is on a 3-year contract that is virtually unmovable. In terms of hope for this roster, what could they possibly give up? Let me see what their future picks are like.
because they have to do something. They already know they have to.
They don't have much, I don't
They
think.
can't give up 2024 because they already traded 2023. The next pick they can give up is 2025, 2027 because they gave up 2029. So if they wanted to package Davis Bertans and 2025 and 2027, they want to enter the same hell that a lot of other teams are in. So they basically have one pick every 2 years for the next, I don't know, several years. That's not the end of the world. They're not adding swaps to it too.
Yeah.
And of course you have Luka Doncic, so you're never gonna. I mean, provided he's healthy, you're never gonna finish bottom 10 in the league. So you're almost never gonna be giving up. And you could add lottery protections to both those picks. I think that you could get. I think they should make a trade for Gary Trent Jr., man. I really do. I think they should dangle one of those picks, one of those first round picks, maybe a second round pick, and just make that deal for Gary Trent Jr. And I think for us, like, I really do, because they need something. There is no fucking way in hell that they are going to waste having these two players together and not put anything around them. And trust me, Christian Wood is not it. He
How
is
are they
not
going to
it.
pay Gary next year?
No
How would they
way.
pay Gary?
What?
How would they pay Gary next year with Luka and then?
I mean,
and then,
Mark Cuban
Kyrie on a new
is
deal?
rich, like he's rich. He can
Yeah, I
afford to
guess.
pay. He has shown in the past to be a bit of a cheapskate, to be honest, but he can pay. I just
Didn't
don't
he
see.
Didn't he
Go ahead.
infamously pay Dirk like a really low thing, but it paid him off site something else?
Cannot confirm.
Wasn't
that.
there a whole to
But-
do about that?
Yes, but a lot of people did feel that did happen with them, and that there's
I'm
some.
pretty sure Dirk's an employee right now, getting cashing checks every month as an
Yeah,
advisor.
an
I'm pretty sure he
advisor,
had
yeah.
some sort of film deal where he got paid $100 million for it.
Something like that. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, look, I think you can look at that Dallas team and say they're not done, and I wouldn't blame them, right? They do need to add something. I would be cautious if I were them. If I put my GM hat on for a second, I would be very cautious if I was them trading any more picks, because you just never know how this Kyrie thing is going to turn out. He is known to flake. He is known to demand trades, and
My
yeah,
thing with
I mean,
Dallas is they bought.
Kyrie's known to walk to center court and say, "I'll be here next year."
and then
They
not show up.
botched Luka era. They botched the Luka era, and it's kind of reminiscent of the LeBron era. His first stint in Cleveland.
Be honest. When you
players so
when you
good.
saw that trade for Kristaps Porzingis, did you think it was going to work?
Nope.
You didn't.
I was like,
I
I
was
said
cau-
they're trying. I was like, they're trying.
I was cautiously optimistic about it. I worried about his health, but I didn't think that they gave up a lot for him. So
Oh, I didn't think it was a bad trade, but Maxi Kleber is a better fit with Luka, the style of play, than someone like Porzingis. He doesn't fit with Luka right.
someone's saying Mark took L's in crypto, and Mark Cuban will have to pay in Dogecoin. Dogecoin. I get it.
Daryl's
Anyway.
killing it today.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks a lot for closing the show out with me. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to everyone who gave super chat. I really appreciate it. This is our second live stream of the day. We live stream for 7 hours. The crazy stamina that it takes to do this. Like, I gotta be honest. Like what is a full-time job? 8 hours? This basically became a full-time job today. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. But I'm really
Hope you
happy to
guys-
do it.
I hope
Pardon?
you got enough super chats to make it worth your while.
I'm not doing it for the money, man. I'm in it for the culture.
I know you're not doing it for it, but I just
Passion.
of course you wanted to be rewarded for it. Of course.
I gotta be honest.
When I started
It
making
doesn't.
music, it wasn't for the money, but it's nice when the money starts to roll in. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on track right now to eclipse our last month, and our last month was twice as good, partially because that entire chat where there was like $600 or something that came in. That was probably like the best day in this channel's history in terms of money coming in. So yeah, I mean, like regularly people are like giving $6.99, $4.99, $2.99, and I think it's really generous. They don't have to do it though. I'm not like, I don't know. I think that this channel is going to grow by leaps and bounds this summer. Specifically, my plan to do is after the Pendance Film Festival, which will obviously occupy me through much of March and April. I'll still do the lives for sure, but they won't be nearly as tedious or long or whatever. After that, my goal is to literally shift focus to other teams and align them with the Raptors in some way. You know, like to maybe do like
Yay!
What?
I said yay.
Oh, yay! I thought you said hey.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
I'm all about that. Trades and drafts, and I'm all about it.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like maybe looking at the Dallas Mavericks offense and showing parallels to how the Raptors could play, like tying it somehow to the Raptors, but still talking about other teams. I think it'll be a great way to sort of build this fan base out a little bit. Bring in other people into, you know, the Raptors community, but also expand the Raptors community's awareness about how other teams are playing. Maybe do player profiles. Like, this is how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scores a mid-range jump shot and why he's so good at it, etc., etc. I think smarter fan bases create smarter on-court products. I've always believed this to be the case. I think this is the case for anything. Just smarter consumers make better consumption.
Rob,
so,
can you do me a favor?
What's up?
When Pascal's traded, could you release the lowlights?
Oh.
Just send them to me. Just send them to me.
You just want it, right?
I just want it.
Oh my God!
I have a request in the
play back this game.
You seem to know a lot about college players. Can you do like can you do a clapback at every terrible Sam Vecini take that you see?
Why? Oh, Sam and I have gone back and forth quite a few times now.
Yeah, just troll that dude. That guy sucks.
You don't like him, eh?
No.
Which guy?
He called Scotty a no-level scorer.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sam Vecini.
I obviously, like, I've made him know it like many times that I'm never going to forget him saying that. But I want to be clear. After I called him out, so what happened was I went into his comments and I started like being like, "Hey, bro, like this is so stupid. You're saying like the Raptors are like basically he's not defending. He's not even trying to guard." I'm like, "This is bullshit. He's obviously on a hurt knee. He's hurt his ankle, whatever." And so he kind of clapped back at me in his own comments. And then I basically started a stream out. I think this was about 2 months ago, basically by calling him out, by saying he's an absolute idiot and whatever. And I got to be fair where fair is due. He came into the comments and he was not pleased at all. Like he came into the chat comments and he was just like, "This is really disappointing. I'm very hurt," or something along those lines. I don't want to misquote the guy, so he's not going to fucking sue me. But he basically said something along the lines of, "I turned this chat on. It was very disappointing." Something very similar to what happened with Blake Murphy. So I kind of talked to him a couple of times, and then he went on to Samson Folks show. They're very big, you know, buddy, right? Over at Raptors Republic. He's a really big fan of Samson's, and I guess Samson's a really big fan of his. Queuing him up for the Athletic, because that's going to come really soon. And they were really fair to Scotty in that video. At least the 10 minutes that I watched, or the 10 minutes I could watch, they were really fair. So from that day on, I just said, water under the bridge, man. Like, I mean, everyone gets takes wrong. I said Ben Mathurin was not going to be a good player. I look like an absolute idiot. We all get things wrong. I just don't like people who aggressively double down. My big issue with what he said in that show was that the Suggs Barnes conversation will be on forever. I was just like, if you say that with a straight face, you are fucking insane. Because that conversation was over a month into last season. Done.
Speaking of Raptors Republic, I look at the quick reactions in Raptors Republic, usually after every game. Scottie Barnes got a B- this game.
B- this game?
Oh my God.
Yeah. And Siakam got a B. All right.
Who did it?
No.
Do you know Mo?
You're kidding me.
It's the guy who did it is Micaiah Bruce. Yeah, so it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Micaiah.
I'm sorry, man. That's just like respect to Raptors Republic. They have some very smart people. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but this is the second time.
It's like he did them in the third quarter.
That's funny.
And went to bed.
That's really funny.
Would you blame him? This game was over.
Perspective.
No, I'm sorry. Like, this is the second show in a row that I'm being told the Raptors Republic gave Scottie Barnes a lower grade than Pascal, and he's been better in those games. I don't get it. Is defense not a factor in these grades? Is fourth quarter closing not a factor? All right, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't change. It doesn't change anything. The analytics are going to be the analytics. The fucking stats are going to be the stats, and people can, kiss his ass if they want to.
And
He didn't
also,
play a good game tonight.
some people also just have certain perspectives. Like the guy that I talked to, it was going back and forth with on Twitter today, was giving me all the typical, well, Pascal's really tired. So I threw out, okay. And I gave him LeBron James is 38 years old and plays 0.7 less minutes than him.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying how he was doing so many assists per game and how he was MVP like at the beginning of the season. And someone like that has a perspective that they love Pascal, and I get it. And he was saying, and Fred was really bad and he was doing all these things and Scotty wasn't reading everything that's been read into the media, right? So it's whether or not you can keep an open mind. Like I make mistakes, I make bad calls and I own them, but not everybody's open to doing that. Some people get so cemented in their beliefs that they can't see outside that box,
Absolutely.
which is
Look,
too bad.
I said James Harden was basically washed. I said James Harden was basically washed.
I.
And he's been amazing.
So did I.
Yeah, he's been amazing.
I mean, the only thing I think maybe if the day comes where I change my mind about Trae Young, then we'll have to hold a party because I can't see that coming. But we'll see.
Yeah. Why does Pascal get an excuse? The tired excuse. He's been tired for 6 weeks now straight. I mean, it's just crazy the excuses they'll make for Fred and Pascal. But you
win a championship, you get a pass. You get a pass for a couple of years, 3 years. I think the 3-year expiry has passed at this point. That's how long you get a pass in this city for winning a championship, right? So
I don't want to see Pascal on this team if Fred isn't here. I'm scared of how he will sleepwalk through the rest of the year. If his one and only friend is gone, I'd be like, he'd just mail it in for the remaining 2 months, which would be a tank commander.
I doubt it.
I
doubt it. He's going to be going for the Supermax. I doubt it. He'll want the
Pascal
Supermax.
Going for the Supermax is the ultimate tank commander.
Absolutely.
Dead serious.
Fair enough.
He's team worst minus 13 today.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he was negative 21. For most of this game, he was negative 21. He came in and he enjoyed, the fourth quarter surge. And granted, kudos to him. He hit 2 free throws. He was a part of it. But I really do think that they would have won this game regardless of whether he came back or not. I really do. Anyway, guys, we're going to close the show out. Thank you so much for joining us. This was fun. Doing four people chats is always interesting. I'm glad that we are able to let each other speak. Kind of helps that we're kind of on the same page about a lot of stuff. We're not doing ESPN debate. But I think that would be fun too. I think having like a 2 people yelling at each other, like let's get some of that going too. Let's get that.
Skip Bayless energy.
Pardon?
Some Skip Bayless energy.
Oh my God! I try to stay away from that dude so much. I just want to stay away from that comp because people have been like, oh, Rob's like Skip Bayless. I was just like, oh my God, I want to quit. I quit. I quit. Like I don't want to be associated with that guy. So, Jake Fisher is linking Naz Reid to Raptors in a trade. Whew, that'd be great.
I like that. What? Is that real?
Me too.
If they can attach the first, they get Pascal.
Giovanni is saying that. What's a lame excuse?
The tired stuff I think he's talking about.
Raptors Nation says that's such an arbitrary number. 3 years. We owe him a lifetime. Get off this, man.
We owe Lowry a lifetime.
Sorry,
do you think Pascal right now gets his jersey retired?
I'm looking at the Naz Reid thing right now.
Rob loves Scotty the way Skip loves MJ. Yeah, well, I mean, if Skip Bayless has one thing right, it is that Michael Jordan is a better player than LeBron James. And if I have one thing right, is that Scotty Barnes will have a better career than Pascal Siakam. So you can own that. All right.
Guys, if they trade Fred and Pascal at this trade line, do any of them get their jerseys retired? If they never play again?
Fuck no. Not even fucking close. No, not even close. No.
Okay.
Retirement?
Jersey.
For what? Retired for what?
An all-star, 2 All-NBA, a championship. I don't know. I'm
Listen,
asking.
the conversation is
There's
going
the-
too far.
Okay,
He-
Vince and Chris Bosh get retired first, then we can
Yeah.
talk. And you can't retire Chris Bosh's jersey because you already gave it to Scotty Barnes. So yeah, that conversation is moot and done. Kyle Lowry oversaw one of the biggest turnarounds in franchise history. He is the prodigal son, if you want to call it.
Goat.
He's
the only
the
one.
GROAT. It's a propaganda machine for sure. For sure, it is. He is like Batman in The Dark Knight Rises. They've resurrected a statue in his name, and they've built all the mythology around it. And you know what? Kudos to him. 90% of it is warranted. Hell of a player, hell of a gutsy performer. Never cheated the game. Never played the wrong way. I love how he played. So, is he massively overrated? Probably. Yeah, probably. You're talking about him.
No, everybody
You don't
played
think
better
so?
with him.
Everyone
I mean,
did
I
play
think
better with
there's
him.
a certain degree of it, yeah. But
Yeah, I mean-
I just, for me, I watched, what I loved about Kyle was, as you say, he never cheated the game, but he was the one guy that always seemed, you know how some coaches are just really good at adapting or reading, like when it's time to call a timeout or when it's time to make an adjustment.
Yes,
Kyle,
I agree.
in my mind, was the best ever at knowing when to flip the switch, knowing when he needed to take a charge, knowing when he needed to hit a three. He orchestrated so many comebacks the year that
I
we
gotta
had
be
all
honest.
those comebacks.
Stories are so, they're weird, right? Because we don't remember the middle. We tend to remember the beginning and we remember the end, right? That's just
True.
how stories work. And we sort of rewrite the middle based on the end, right? I
True.
mean,
That's fair.
we sort of forget, what Vince Carter was to us in the middle. We just kind of, again, we write the beginning and we see the end. Never won a championship, so we rewrite the middle. We forget all the, he's basically Michael Jordan. We forget that he led the entire league in value of a replacement for an entire year as a Toronto Raptor. He's the only Raptor to ever lead the league in value of a replacement, and we just brush that over and just say, retire for what? He's a choker. He did this. He did that. He's soft. He says, look,
Media.
the end of the day, yeah, it's the story. Okay, it is a story. Kyle Lowry led this team to multiple, and I do mean multiple, playoff disappointments, including sweeps. A couple of sweeps, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly. That
In the
Washington
first round.
series was a sweep.
Yep.
The Cavaliers thing was a sweep. Now, and he sat there with DeMar DeRozan as they both pretty much nodded and said, we would win too if we had that guy. Okay, he's a guy who goes
They
to
also
the
had a notorious fight, him and DeMar, that one summer. Dwayne had to bring them together in LA because Kyle was so mad at DeMar about the defense.
Sure, that too. He also didn't talk to DeMar for an entire year when he was here. There's also a whole bunch of personal stuff. Look, I to be honest, just full disclosure,
Bill.
I know someone who was very, very close to Kyle throughout his entire tenure here. I have very complicated feelings about him. He's still one of my favorite Raptors of all time. I want to say that.
Yeah.
I question some of the mythology around him because it's just factually not true. But I also respect the fact that he played the game for the right reasons. He had a lot of love for the game. He played the right way. As a basketball player, as a man, as a teammate, separate conversations. But as a basketball player, hell of a basketball player, extracted every bit of value from him. Country Kong saying, do you remember our team before Kyle Lowry? Yeah, that's like asking, do you remember our team before Masai Ujiri? Again, causation, correlation, right? You make the case that Kyle Lowry oversaw one of the greatest eras of your franchise history. He was in charge of all the development, etc. I'll tell you right now that when you really ask players who developed during that period of time, from OG to Pascal to Fred, who they really credit for their growth, they never say just Kyle. They always say Kyle and DeMar. DeMar is one of the most inclusive people in the world. He is someone who has always helped young players. He is a great human being as well, on and off the court. He and Kyle are a bit of a yin-yang relationship. Yeah. I love that they got along. They were so different. Such different people.
It was like good cop, bad cop.
There was a little bit of good cop, bad cop, and you need a little bit of that. You need a little bit of that. You need a little bit of Fred. You need a little bit of Scotty, right? So there is a bit of that. But
these young guys ain't gonna say that about Pascal and Fred. I'm pretty sure. These young guys ain't gonna say that about them.
I don't think they will.
No,
So
they will
I
not.
just want to say that I think look, what happened with the Julius Randle All-Star pick, right, is that Julius Randle got credit from the coaches for work that his team did. He's not the best player on the New York Knicks this year. Jalen Brunson is. I can prove that by stats.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't like the fact that Jalen Brunson tampered his ass over to New York, and they decided to reward Julius Randle. Okay,
Randle has
no
better
problem.
numbers. Randle has
I
better
think
numbers.
that a lot of what the Raptors built from 2009 all the way till 2018, I believe that DeMar DeRozan deserves a lot more credit for it. Number one, he repped us. Number two, he recruited for us. Number three, he developed for us. He was a consummate pro, a consummate leader. You can argue about the playoff failures. Kyle Lowry was right there with him, buddy.
His crowning achievement was being good enough to be traded for Kawhi, which got us a championship. He developed good enough to be traded for a superstar.
I felt really bad for him because that became a black stain on him. Look at what he's done since then and tell me he has not produced more win shares than Kawhi Leonard. He has. Tell me he has not been better in the clutch than Kawhi Leonard. He has. Tell me he's not played more games than Kawhi Leonard. He has. He's been a consummate pro. Look, you want my honest opinion here? This might be a hot take. My honest opinion is, in terms of Raptor players that I respect above anything, DeMar is number one for me. I respect him above any player who's ever played for this franchise. Vince is probably number two. Kyle is probably number three. Okay? That's kind of my personal top three. Scotty will very quickly usurp all of them, I'm sure, within 3 years. But for now, that's my top three. Happen to know a lot about Vince and Kyle that maybe the media does not know, or maybe people don't know, but I'm just saying, based on everything I heard about these guys, based on what I heard from Mo Pete, what I heard from these guys, just a grapevine. The story versus the story that came out was very different. The narrative, the mythology, what the management wanted you to think, what people wanted you to think. I just think that Vince, he did his best, man. Vince and DeMar, they embraced this place. Scotty's doing the same thing right now. He's embracing this place. And these guys were real superstars. Like, they had options. DeMar had options. He could have gone max to like 7 different places. He chose to re-up here, right? And you didn't really have to overpay him, and he never really thought about it twice, right? The only time he ever wavered on his commitment to this franchise is when they were willing to tank and trade Kyle Lowry to the Knicks. And that was the only time that I recall where he was just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I just think that he deserves a lot more credit than he's often remembered as, just sort of the sacrificial lamb who just couldn't do it. And while I don't agree with his mentality that, it was just one guy, I do think that a team with DeMar DeRozan probably gets smoked again. I just respect him for what he built here.
Yes.
Because I do think that he was a really big part of, I hope he gets a ring too. I hope that at some point in his career gets a ring, because I think that a really big part of making Kyle Lowry the leader he was his relationship with DeMar DeRozan.
And I was jealous when
100%.
the Bucks won their championship because it was homegrown, and we hired a mercenary, so it was kind of different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if DeMar was the Finals MVP, we'd all be crying tears of joy.
Raptors Nation. I've been reading a few of your comments, and I just want to address you directly before we end this chat. I think you're an absolute. Okay, hold on. Let me recalibrate here.
Learn the real story about Rob Babcock.
Breathe,
The
meditate.
smear
Okay.
jobs they're doing to Scotty, they did 10 times
Not everybody knows about Rob Babcock.
Fuck Rob Babcock. Do you know about Richard Petty? Do you know about MLSE? Do you know about everything that they did? Go talk to Jalen Rose. Go talk to fucking anyone who was on that team during that time. My dream for this channel is to get to 10,000 and to actually get someone who was on the team and set the record straight for what happened to Vince during that.
30
I
for
would
30.
love
30 for 30, Vince Carter.
I would love to get Vince on one day, and I've reached out to a couple people, and we'll see if that ever happens. He has his own show right now, and I don't know why he would do a small show like this.
Was shocked that they were talking about Vince Carter's mother. He's like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah, honestly, you guys have no idea about.
They didn't know how to operate back then.
They didn't know how to operate. Go talk to any player who's ever played with Vince.
They went low. They went way below the belt.
They owe him a public apology.
Disgusting
Tribute video will not do. A tribute video will not do. They owe him a public apology for
And
what
you
they
saw
did to
when they
him.
finally cheered for Vince.
I
When they
cried
finally
when
cheered
Vince
for
cried
Vince,
over
he was
that
crying.
when he got
He was
cheered.
crying. Do you remember that?
I know, I cried.
When they finally cheered for Vince, he was crying.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that. He was with the
I'm like,
Memphis Grizzlies. He came
Yeah.
back. They gave him a tribute video. They finally fucking did it. I called for it for 12 years, 10 years, 12 years, however long it was. I cheered for him every step of the way. I never turned on Vince. Never. Not once. Because I found out 5 days later after the trade. I turned on him for 5 days. I want to say something. I turned on him so immediately because I didn't know the full story when it happened. It broke really quickly. There was a rumor that was started by someone I will not name, so I do not want to get sued. And the rumor was that he was giving away plays to the other team. And when I heard that, I was so heartbroken because I was a very young fan. I was very heartbroken. So I had a Vince Carter jersey, and I unstitched it. I took the 15 off, I took the Carter off, and I just made it a blank jersey. And I think 4 or 5 days later, 4 or 5, I was very angry. And instead of burning it, I was just like, let me just turn it into a blank jersey, and then I can make it a different jersey. I was very creative, you know. May not be great with technology, but you know, I can sew, you know, I guess. So I unsewed that jersey, and it was not that hard. Eventually, by the way, that jersey did turn into a Charlie Villanueva jersey. By the way, fun fact. That being said, I found out about 5 days later what actually happened, what had happened prior to him leaving, and I just would love for him to one day just really set the record straight and honestly do it. Not like I would like for him to go on All the Smoke and do it, like a show like that, or Pivot,
But he's
one of those
such a good
shows.
guy, he won't throw the franchise under the bus of how low
He should. What's up?
I gotta go, guys. Sorry, I gotta go. I gotta run.
All right, cheers, Vince.
Thank you.
Have a good
It's
one.
been fun.
By the way,
thank you guys.
The saddest.
All right, see
Bye,
ya.
Vince.
I really wanted Masai in the front office to get Carter instead of Jeremy Lin for that last roster spot on the championship team. How great would it have been for Carter to win a championship?
Yeah, it would
As
have
like
been
the
great.
15th man.
With
I
Toronto.
really wanted it, but I think when I heard about the potential of doing that, they talked about the potential distraction that it would create, and I think there were a couple of guys on the roster that sort of vetoed it. Even though I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to misquote him, I believe Kyle was for it. So yeah. Anyways, long story short, I really respect Vince and DeMar a lot more than a lot of people in this fan base do. I've pretty much always been a contrarian thinker, so I'm not surprised by that. But I am not throwing shade on Kyle Lowry. I just think that maybe a
You
lot
don't think
of credit.
people respect DeMar? I think he's beloved.
I think he's
maybe I'm
beloved
biased.
I think he's beloved in the same way a wounded animal is beloved. Like people feel bad that he got traded.
Yeah,
but I don't think that people
no,
put enough
no, I don't
respect
feel
on
that
the
way
work
at
that
all.
he I don't think people put enough respect on the work that he did here. Now, guys,
You think they put
we
more
were a
respect on
60
Pascal?
win team. Pardon?
You think they put more respect on Pascal?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
But you got to
Every
understand
summer he improved.
he was the leading
He
scorer
spent-
and highest usage player on a 60 win team. The Raptors won 60 games with him, right? Remember?
59.
59?
he still
59.
owns most of the records, no?
He does. And he deserves it. And you know what? This is a kid from Compton, California. Okay, Compton, California is a long ways from Toronto, Ontario. And I tell you right now, his first year here, he was a lost puppy. He was so lost.
On the court and off the court.
And as a human being, his loyalty knows no bounds. Once he's with you,
Wasn't he
he's with you for
19
life.
when we got him?
I'll tell you right
Yeah,
now,
he was
DeMar
young.
DeRozan was our Tim Duncan. I know that's a kind of a weird comp, but in terms of setting the tone of what it means to be a Toronto Raptor, that was DeMar.
He made it cool to be a Raptor.
Yeah, man. He was incredible. He was a good person. I rate the person. I rate the intent. He was selfless. He was a good person. He was an incredible teammate. Talked to a couple players who played with him, and they said
unparalleled work
You
ethic.
just see how you see how the players embrace him on other teams. When you see JB, DeLon, you know.
They do. And he's
Kyle.
tough. And he's tough as hell. You know, he's tough as hell. Look, he's not a perfect player. I took a lot of issues with his defense. I took a lot of issues with his playoff performances, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things is a basketball team is like a foxhole. You with these guys, you go to war with them every night. You got to respect what the guy's about, like really about as a human being. And what DeMar is about as a human being is just solid. He's just a solid person. I will always think that he's a solid person. I will never slander him for getting, beat in the playoffs or whatever by LeBron. I will never be upset with him for getting upset with Masai for doing it. That's just who he was. He was a very loyal person. Loyalty is an incredibly underrated and underappreciated thing in today's world, where people would just turn on you in a second. People just throw you under the bus in a second. And I got to tell you, when I heard that they traded for Kawhi Leonard and I read his story, his Instagram story, I was up at night when that news broke, and I read his trade you for a little bit of nothing or something like that. When I read that, I actually had tears in my eyes. I felt really bad for him. I don't care who they got. I was like, doing him like this felt wrong.
Said Masai lied to him. He said Masai lied to him.
He
which
says,
I think is half true.
I know the actual story of what happened. I don't think I'm at liberty to share. I think it was a miscommunication, to be honest. I don't think either one of them is lying per se. Yeah. It was a massive miscommunication.
I think it was meant to not trade him until then. Maybe a couple hours later or the next day, Kawhi was on the table and it was real. I don't think the intent to trade him was there.
That's not what happened. But yeah, it's okay. It's cool.
I think it's perception of what was said, personally. Sure. And the other thing is, it's not just the players that respect DeMar; it's also the coaches and the
let's just put it this way: something changed. Something changed last second that wasn't supposed to change, and they just had to act on it. And he was aware of it. He was aware that the thing would happen, and then it wasn't going to happen. Then it happened. So, to the best of his ability, look, if I tell you right now that I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow, and then I don't do a live stream tomorrow because something happens to me tomorrow morning, I didn't lie to you. Something happened. Shit happens, and that's kind of as politely as I can put what happened with DeMar. Anyway, off we go. 3 hours, 33 minutes. Wow.
Do we have another game before the deadline? We have one more, right?
Yes, we do. Before we go, I'm just going to quickly flash the schedule. Go ahead.
The coaches also really respect DeMar, because there was a lot of people that were saying, when people were saying that Pascal was snubbed, they were saying, well, who should he have been on instead of? And some people were saying DeMar. But to me, the reason DeMar was on the team is because it's not just the players that respect him, it's also the coaches, which is a testament to who he is as an individual.
Okay. I agree. And, DeMar is probably the easiest guy to take off an all-star team this year based on the season he's having. The fact that he still got that vote, despite the fact that he plays very minimal defense, I think is commendable, given the fact that the Chicago Bulls suck as bad as they do. That is the respect that coaches are showing to him. And you know what? I'm for it, man. When he is inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he should be, and he will be hopefully one day inducted to the Hall of Fame, and I will pay to be there for that, because I would be so proud of him. That would just be so incredible, and those all-star teams are going to count for that, because he's probably not making another All-NBA team for the rest of his life. All right, before we go, can we do one final thing, which is just go through the remaining schedule, and I would just like to pick your brains on whether each of these games is going to be a win or a loss. Try not to be a hater, try not to be pro-tank, just realistically tell me if you think it's going to be a win or a loss, and we're going to tally it up and together, and if there's a debate, you say yes. If Mo says yes and Tamberlin says no, I'll break the tie with whatever. And if you both agree, then it doesn't really matter what I have to say. We'll just do it.
It always matters what you say.
No, but it really doesn't at this point. If it's we're being completely democratic here. So flash the schedule on the screen for you. The next game before the deadline, I believe it's on the deadline. No, it's the day before the deadline, is versus San Antonio. And basically what I'm going to do here is, we have 25 wins right now. I want to see, based on what you guys say, whether or not we're going to make the playoffs. And all of this is contingent on us keeping this roster together and that we stay reasonably healthy. Okay. That means OG probably comes back, Detroit game, and we suffer no major injuries through the rest of the way, which is probably unrealistic, but let's just go with it. So the first one, San Antonio, and I'll just keep it Tamberlin first, Mo second. So Tamberlin?
It's a win. They put 143 points on them the last time.
Okay, just to keep this quick, we're going to keep it win or loss. Okay, win. Okay, so that's one win. Utah.
Win.
That's going to be a day after the trade deadline.
Did you say we're keeping the? I'm sorry to add here. Did you say we're keeping the same team?
Yep.
Loss.
I'm going to say loss as well. Okay. So that's still one win. Detroit.
KC Super Bowl. KC Super Bowl loss.
Okay. I'm going to say win.
Win.
Yeah, that's 2 wins. Orlando.
We got to win
Revenge
one
game.
against
Win.
them.
Revenge game. Win.
Okay.
Oh, maybe they're the Detroit of this year. I'll say loss.
I'm going to say loss as well. New Orleans.
Loss.
I'm going to say loss as well. So Tamberlin, you get outvoted. That's a loss. So
Okay.
so far we have wins against San Antonio and Detroit, losses against Utah, Orlando, and New Orleans. Okay, so we're at 2 wins so far. Moving on. Then at Detroit.
Win.
Win.
Win. Okay, so that's 3 wins. At Cleveland.
I don't think we sweep them. Loss.
Go for the sweep. Scotty gets up for Mobley.
I'm going to say loss as well. Okay. Chicago.
Win.
It's here. Win.
Win. Me too. Okay. No, it's not here. It's there. Both are there. It's a road and road.
In Washington?
No, it's here.
It says
Tuesday,
at
February
Washington.
28th.
No, March
Chicago's
4th.
here.
No, I didn't say
Sorry?
Chicago. I said Washington.
He's talking about the
Oh, I'm
back
sorry.
in Washington. Yeah, we split.
Did I say Chicago? I skipped Chicago.
Yeah.
My bad. Okay, so Chicago versus Chicago.
Win.
Win. Okay, so that's 4 wins. Now at Washington
Split.
twice. Split. Okay, so that's 5
Split.
wins. At Denver,
Loss.
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 Okay. At Clippers.
Loss.
Okay. At Lakers,
Win.
Win.
loss. Okay, fine. We'll add it as a win.
Actually,
but
no, loss. You're right. Loss.
Refs.
Loss.
Okay. It's not just it's at Staples, and you guys might be right, but I feel like LeBron, AD, playoff push.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's
Loss. You're right. I agree. Loss. I take
Okay. Denver.
Loss.
Loss.
Am I correct? Or we have 5 wins right now? Did I fuck this up somehow? I think we have 5 wins right now. Okay. OKC.
Win.
Win.
Okay. Minnesota.
Win.
Loss.
Will Karl Anthony Towns be back for that?
Should be. What's the
Okay.
date?
What is the date? The date of that game is March 18th.
Yeah, I'd be back.
Okay. Okay, you guys said win, right?
We split.
No, I said loss.
Okay, so I guess it's up to me. I'm going to say win. I don't know why that feels like a win, but I feel like we've been hard so far, so we're making one up there. Like a makeup call by the refs. At Milwaukee.
Loss.
Loss.
I'm at a loss too. Versus Indiana.
Loss.
Win.
I'm going to go with win too. I feel like they might be tanking at that point unless they trade Miles Turner. So that's another win. Okay, so we're at 8 wins now. Detroit.
In Toronto.
Win.
KC Super Bowl. Loss.
I'm going to go with win again.
Win.
Yeah, the history of Detroit versus Toronto is sweeps. It's all sweeps. So Casey swept 2 years. I feel like this is Nurse's revenge. This is like Rocky 3. It's like a revenge movie. Okay, Washington versus Washington here.
I go
Win.
loss. I lost.
I said win.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go with win too. Miami
Loss.
versus... Yeah, I'm at loss too.
Loss. for sure.
Philadelphia. At Philadelphia.
Loss.
Loss too.
Yeah.
I'm with that. At Charlotte twice.
Win.
Double win because they're going to be tanking.
Sweet.
That's 12.
Tank.
That's 12 wins. At Boston versus Milwaukee. Just give me a record on that 3. I will tell you, however, that there's a very good chance that all 3 teams will be resting guys.
Yeah.
With that late.
I go 2-1. I go 2-1.
Okay.
Agreed.
So that's 14 wins remaining on the season. To tack on to our current 25 wins, that leaves us with a record of 39-43.
Jeez, what an
By the
ugly
way,
ew.
Toronto's won the last 7 games against LA in LA.
Yeah, but the Lakers have been really, really bad during that period of time, and they could potentially dangle those 2 first-round picks. I expect them to do something over the next couple of days. And Anthony Davis, I mean, in fairness, like, he misses a lot of games, so if he's healthy for those, I could see them winning it. Right.
LeBron break the record Tuesday or Thursday?
I
Not
don't
the
know.
next game. The game
How many
after.
does he have? How many does he have to go?
36 playing OKC, and OKC's on a back-to-back playing Golden State tomorrow night.
Interesting. Okay, so to quickly flash the standings as our final thing of the day, and to the 200 people who thought this was going to end an hour ago, you must not know us, right? This is never ending. It's a never ending chat. So this is the record after today: 25-30, 39-43. Let me just quickly do the math on that, like what that record projects out to. So
that has to be in the play-in. That has to be in the play-in.
No, it definitely is. So 39 divided by 82, it's a record of 47.5 times 82. Okay, so 47.5. The winning percentage is 47.5. That is actually currently 10th.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, a win percentage of 47% puts you at 10th, which means that if nothing changes in the standings other than us passing Washington and Indiana, how would that look? You would face Chicago. Wait, how does the play-in work? It's the 7 and 8 seed. Seven and 8 seed face off against each other. So New York would face Atlanta. Washington, we would face Chicago. So we'd face DeMar DeRozan, who's notorious for giving up games like that. And then at that point, we would have to face the
loser. Yeah.
So we would have to face Atlanta, which I do not give us a chance in hell at beating Atlanta in a do or die game. Sorry. Trae Young in a 1-game series? No.
We're not winning 2 playing games.
Yeah.
You only get 1 shot if you're in 10th. Well, yeah, that's true.
You only get 1 shot if you're 10th or 9th.
Yeah, if you win that game, then you get 2 shots, but you have to win both, right?
Yeah.
Last year, the 10th place team had 43 wins.
Correct. So there is a chance that Washington, who are 6-4 over the last bit, are ready to put themselves into. Look, the trade deadline will tell everything. I think the Raptors can just look at teams like Washington, New York. They all have picks that they can dangle in trades and get aggressively better. And Chicago, I mean, they could get better too. Atlanta could get better as well. Granted, they don't have as many picks after
6
giving
to 10.
up.
You can go from 6 to 10. Miami all the way to Washington. Desperation.
Yeah. So I think the other part of this, obviously, is that when the Raptors, clarify that they are just not in that position, they will also start to tank, while other teams that are trying to make the play-in desperately, whoever those teams are, whether it's Washington, whether it's Chicago, whether it's New York, Atlanta, Miami, Indiana, I don't know, whoever the teams are. Or if Orlando trades for Fred VanVleet, maybe it's Orlando, because they're not that far out of it either. So I do think the Raptors are on the brink of like one nasty week, and it's like on the verge of mathematical elimination.
And one good weekend, we ruined the tank completely.
Yeah, it's been like that for a long time. They've been playing 500 ball for a bit now, right?
Yeah. After today with Kyrie, do you think that the Grizzlies, the Suns, even Denver, Pelicans are going to feel like they have to make a move, because with Luka having Kyrie, it ups the possibility of him. I mean, Luka can win a series on his own. Now he's got an actual, probably the best player he's ever had to play beside, because Porzingis didn't work out. So do you think that expedites those teams wanting to make a move? I think it
I would
does, personally.
hope that those teams can see that the Mavericks don't have a single defender and that they got rid of one of their more positive defenders in Dorian Finney-Smith. I I understand the isolation scoring argument, and I do understand that the Mavericks are sort of leaning into what they already do well. But unless they trade they have Maxi Kleber and JaVale McGee as plus defenders. Where's the other plus defenders? Tim Hardaway Jr. a plus defender? Not really. You know? I guess Reggie Bullock, is he a plus defender? I'd be very curious.
Not
I
really.
mean,
He's
He looks
streaky.
like he looks like he's doing a lot of things, but it's not effective. He looks like he's playing defense.
Also
but
depends on how they call the game.
yeah, I mean, according to his analytics profile, where is he? Let's see. Yeah, I don't see where you're supposed to get wins from, right? Like, yeah, like you could say, look, the Nets were winning with this guy, but Kevin Durant is a hell of a lot better as a defender. Yeah, Reggie Bullock's 37th percentile defender, decent with rim defense, rim frequency, okay with deflections. He's just nothing great. He's nothing to write home about. I think they need something. I think they need like a miracle. Maybe they need a reclamation project. Maybe they need, a Jamario Moon type of, role player to come in and just guard. Maybe Matisse Thybulle.
Robert
Matisse
Covington, another change of scenery for him again. It's the annual
Yeah,
Robert
I don't
Covington
know.
trade.
I don't know. I think he
Nick
might be
Batum,
past his.
the
I
Clippers
think he
have a
might.
bunch of those guys.
He might be past his prime. I think he's well past his prime actually. I think Matisse Thybulle, with two, like, I think the gravity of Kyrie and the passing of Kyrie and Luka could really unlock Matisse Thybulle to be a respectable offensive player. I think the spacing that guys like Davis Bertans and you can play 5 out, like, he's just so much better than, like,
You can
the
have to
gap
play-
between Kyrie and anyone Luka's played with in the backcourt, from Spencer Dinwiddie to Jalen Brunson. It's so
Jalen
large.
Brunson.
Right. And the way that these guys can create for non-scorers, like, I really would have liked to, I would like to see them make a trade
JJ.
if they can. Pardon?
Didn't he play with JJ?
JJ
Luka?
Redick? Did he?
No. No, the
JJ
little
people-
guy, JJ.
JJ
the
Barea.
JJ
Spanish guy
Barea.
with the-
JJ
Yeah.
Barea. Yes, he did. Yeah, so I would just like to see him make a trade. I'd like to see them make a trade for Matisse Thybulle. I think he would really fit with what they're trying to do. I think the Sacramento Kings are entertaining offers for Matisse Thybulle as well. Yeah, I think that would be a reasonable thing. I think they could also take on long-term money, but they have to do something because they have to support this core. And no, Kyrie is not just it. They have to add one more piece. I think, why not the Raptors? Give them Chris Boucher. He would help so much. And if you can get a pick swap or something, maybe not a pick swap, something like,
Who do you want, Josh Green? Or do you try to get Dwight? I
Dwight
mean, if they
Powell
could get
would-
Dwight or Maxi, I would die.
I mean, why would they do that? Those are two players who
I
really
know
help
what
them.
I'm saying. If they want, if you got to give something to get something, Rob.
Ha ha ha!
Right?
But I would like something that makes me worse right now, but makes me better in the future. I don't want to ruin the tank because Dwight Powell absolutely solves like a million problems that this team has.
You
If
just
they
have
had signed
Otto go
Dwight
and stomp
Powell,
on his- You just have
Pardon?
Otto go stomp on their toe when they get here, and then go on the injured reserve for the rest of the year, and then they're killer next year with Dwight or Maxi.
I don't know about that.
I'm being facetious.
Of course,
I just-
a word that I've
I
used
love
quite a
both
few
those
times.
guys. That's why.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. Anyway, guys, I'm done for the
Okay.
final time. I promise this is it. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us, all 189 of you. We started out at about 380 people, which is just absolutely crazy. Tough win tonight, but, hopefully hope is on the way. I pray that hope is on the way for the Raptors via a trade that settles this fan base. We are very divided right now, but hopefully we're all just rooting for a really good product on the floor eventually, whether that happens this year at the trade deadline or whether that happens going into this offseason. I think we're all just excited to root for a product on the floor that we believe in, that has us dreaming about Larry O'Brien's again. All right. Thank you so much to Tamberlin. Thank you to Mo, Coach Mo. Thanks to Vince, who is now putting his kid to bed and or dealing with his kid who's crying and thanks to everyone who stayed with us on the streams. And if you need more help to put yourself to sleep tonight, go check out our last stream because we did a trade show today and it was pretty cool. Alrighty. Take care. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.